Boom! We are live. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope everyone's had a fantastic week. It is podcast time. We gave you a bonus last night. This evening, back with our Friday. This is a great one. This is someone we've been trying to set up, I guess, for a few years now, which we'll get into. So this is super fun. All right, I'll get this going. 63. All right. What's good, y'all? This is C Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 63 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast, Adjunct Series Quarantine Edition. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special episode. Before I tell you any more about our guest, you know what time it is, guys. It's sponsor time. Huge shouts to Dr. Nick's amazing man stuff out there in Massachusetts. See if I can get that all on the screen. Look at that. These guys are the beard plug. They keep They keep everything looking fresh. These guys have been rocking with us for the last month or so. I've been using their products since January. I'm not a beard oil guy. By the way, they make beard oils, balms, and sanitizers. I'm not a beard product guy. I don't know, hair gel and slimy shit all over me. But this stuff is really fantastic. It's super smooth, super subtle. It's given some life to the beard, but also it's some texture. My beard was mad dry, and now using the oils and the balms every day has really given it a bit more of a bounce. And I've really been enjoying it for real. You know, as you guys know, if you listen or watch, we don't really do sponsors that much. Hardly at all, if I'm honest. And it really has to be a good fit. And these guys absolutely share the craft beer ethos. Like I said, they're based out of Massachusetts. I know them through my good friend Giles, who you might remember if you're a long-time viewer or listener from my episode in the 40s in Vermont. He used to own a hotel, Hostel Tevere, which was like a ski hostel with an incredible craft beer bar. So we interviewed him on the first trip. He became a good friend. He's featured on the channel a few times. Every time we go to Vermont, we catch up. So he linked me. He's working with these guys. Obviously, anything Giles says, I'm with it. So the products, every time we're talking about, I want to focus on something different. This evening, we're talking about their beard sanitizers, this is such an interesting thing called Shelter in Face, which is hilarious. This is obviously great timing based on what we're all going through in the world right now. So the way Nick came on the podcast, like Dr. Nick came on a few weeks, maybe like a month ago, and he was like, say you're out shopping or whatever, and you've been in the store, you come back in your car or you leave the store, still got your mask on. He goes, you just spray your face with this stuff. It's like a cooling mist. And both of these flavors are citrus. There's a blood orange and a key lime, and apparently the citrus really gives you a bright, awakening kind of feeling. And it not only sanitizes your mask on the outside and your face, and you can take the mask off and you can kind of massage it into your beard, and even by doing that, it sanitizes your hands too. So it's a really fun, convenient product, super small and lightweight. All of these products use essential oils, not fragrance oils. So, it's expensive stuff, all made in the US. It's not like the cheap stuff that, irritates your skin. All the bottles, caps, everything is all US made. So they keep it local, hence a craft beer ethos. And speaking of craft beer, they're doing a series where they're collaborating with craft breweries to make beard oils based on some of their big beers. And these are not small breweries. They're working with Treehouse, Trillium, Lawson's, Vitamin C, like a whole bunch of New England breweries. So very impressive. And also, last thing, they are giving you guys a chance to get these cheaper, of course. So you're going to rock a 15% discount using the code BAOS21. Tiff is a queen, and she just put it in the comments there. It's also in the description if you are watching. If you are listening, it's also in the show notes. This is Dr. Nick's, DOCTOR Nick's, NICKS.com. Check it out, and if you order, I think everything's around the $20-something mark. If you order two things, it's over $40, and it's free shipping across North America. So Dr. Nick's amazing man stuff, BOS21, get your discount, get it on ya. Now, with that said, this evening, we're taking it back to Ontario. This is a brewery we just realized we had been talking a few years ago when they opened, and this obviously isn't the optimal way to do this, but, next best thing. I'm going to bring him right on. We have this evening, where is my damn thing? We have Jeff from Canvas Brewing. Sir, welcome. Look at that set, mate. Look at that set. That is gorgeous. That is.
I didn't know I'd get an applause either.
Oh yeah, like to spring it on you. Great to meet you, man. Great to have you on.
You too. Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah, it's been a couple of years, and it's been finally good to meet you and get talking with you and get us going. Like it's it's unfortunately you couldn't come out to the brewery and come see what we actually are doing right there, but this is the next best thing.
Next best, and we'll take it for now. We'll get out there eventually as soon as all this nonsense buggers off. I want to definitely shout out your wife for putting together this gorgeous set. I love it. The backdrop, the props, the wall, it's really attractive. It's A1.
I'll let you know, those are real brick, too.
There's a real brick, not even green screen.
No, not yet. Yeah, it's definitely not green screen there.
Doing good, mate. I love it. So I've been looking forward to this. Actually, aside from speaking to you back then, my brother lives in Toronto and he's our audio engineer and does a bunch of photography for us. So his friend got hold of some of your beers and got them to him. So he took some photos. I post a bunch of his photos typically on BAOS. So he did that and I was like, oh man, this looks great. Excuse me, when we were posting. And then we got back in touch. So this worked out pretty well to have you back on. I'm super curious to see what you're up to. So we're going to go through 4 of your glorious beers this evening, starting with this bad boy right here.
Right.
Tell us about the original, Canvas Original, which is a Kölsch style ale. I like it. You kept the Cologne authenticity there by calling it Kölsch style.
Definitely, yeah. Like we definitely use lagered ale, and most of the times when we describe it, just to kind of get the concept of what the style of beer it is to most people. Usually they're talking in between, they understand what an ale is somewhat. They understand mostly what a lager is, but most lager drinkers do like a Kölsch.
Yes.
So kind of cross that bridge with both of them.
I love it.
And this was our first beer that we came out with.
Cool. Okay, perfect.
Back in 2018, actually, that would have been around the same time I would have contacted you first.
You actually did say we had a Kölsch. I think you canned it even back then.
Yeah. We first batch we did, we canned it. Mostly looking to do canned sales, kegged a little bit, and then as every story goes, when you start a brewery, you run out of beer, you start making sales, and then you're starting to scramble. And started getting keg accounts and then cans and just kept snowballing, which we were contracting at the time. So that added another complexity level because we weren't we were still in the middle of construction.
Right. I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah.
Look at this clarity, man. That's beautiful. You did a really good job on that. I know that's not an easy task to do.
Not too difficult. But yeah, definitely a little time and a little like finding agents. It's unfiltered as well. So I do use a finding agent after about a 3-week lagering time, and let everything drop out of that, and transfer over into my bright tank and carb it up, ready to go.
Good to go. Well, mate, great to meet you, Jeff. Cheers, man. Get it in you. Delicious. Great nose, by the way. Nice bready cereal nose. It's light, 4.5%. So it's 4.5. Got a nice great body. Tons of flavor for the ABV. Nice, a little bit dry. I feel like there might be just a real subtle bitterness in there. A little grassy. Cereal kind of bready vibes. Tell me if I'm missing anything here.
Like heavy on the malt. Slight little. I usually find there's a nice little savory note you get from the Holler Tower hops that I use in the finish there. There's a little bit of subtle floral and subtle citrus note from the Holler Tower.
Okay.
But very very low. Like you definitely get the bready and the malt character first.
I love it. I'm definitely getting all of that. Yep.
Yeah, I let it warm up a little bit, and then you sort of like very subtly coming through, which is a nice touch to the complexity of it. So it's not just a one-dimensional. I guess we'd say like a light beer, light lager, and those kind of those rounds. Especially with the Kölsch, you want to be able to hit like a good malt note, and you want to hit a nice bit of hop character, but not go over the top too, because I've never been to Cologne.
Right.
I've never drank a Kölsch there, but every time you hear about that description of it, and they bring out those like small 200 ml glasses, and they just continually, like you have to tell them to stop. They were like, I've had too much. and like you just think about how much you drink like each one of those with those nice flavors, and like that's kind of how I was driving that the idea into this.
I love it.
But yeah, yeah, pretty happy with it. I find like the town of Huntsville is pretty happy with it, and most of our accounts in around the area. It's like our, it's our number one selling beer right now. Kind of in like a traditional beer style town, and it's, like I grew up in Huntsville, and it's like nice to, it's really nice to give a beer that everyone's really excited for at our brewery. And then we also have the other beers that we have, like in trending beers and all that good stuff. But it's nice to give, like, everyone's excited about a brewery, but all those traditional beer drinkers that come out, they like the Kölsch or like a lager, or even like a nice British kind of ale. Like they always want to get those type of beers at your brewery. And if you do all IPAs or you do all this, they kind of get left out a little bit. Yeah. So it was a strategic decision to kind of move into this direction first, and then once we got the brewery built, and then we can start to do pale ales, hazies, sours, all that great stuff.
Gotcha. So it's really playing to your audience. You know who you're dealing with. You know what the people in and around the area want. But then because you've got a bit more distro, you've got some more seasoned beer drinkers who might want the trendier stuff, which like you said, we'll get to in a couple of beers time.
Exactly.
To kind of like, so you're able to dabble in a bit of everything, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was, we put the brewery together, and we decided to put 20 taps in.
Jeez.
And I know it's pretty impressive. And then after it was installed, and after we put everything in there, I just looked at it. I thought it was a great idea at first, and then I looked at all 20 taps and only had like 2 beers. And I was like, oh wait, that's a lot of beer.
Now what I gotta do? Now I gotta brew it all.
Oh, I gotta work.
Hey, was it worth it in the end?
Oh, it's worth it. Yeah.
It was worth it.
No, we got up to even with guest taps, we're at like 18 taps. We fill it up, and just we give something for everybody, which is the great part.
Perfect, man. I love it. I wanted to just I basically do the little reviews, or I do the selfie thing. So if I was just taking some one-word tasting notes that I'll edit later. I want to confirm, you said it was Hallertau. Was it a specific Hallertau hop?
Mittelfru.
Oh, Mittelfru. I know the one.
Yeah. I can't pronounce very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. No problems. Want to make sure I get that right.
Magnum bittering.
Magnum.
Canadian barley, Canadian wheat, and
Love
then USO 5, like California common
for the yeast.
California. Yeah.
Perfect for that. Okay, love it. This is great. Thank you. No, this is fantastic, man. I can see why it's the number one selling. Man, look at a lot of viewers right now. You're very popular. This is awesome. Yeah.
It might be all my family and friends.
Hey, what up, everybody? Thank you for coming through.
Hello.
This is really good, man. This is like a real nice on point Kölsch. It's got everything you're looking for here. Like it's interesting. I'm sure we'll get to it, but you know what it's like for the beer drinkers. We've been doing it for a while. You start with this type of thing, the macro lagers. You move to the Euro lagers, then you go through the amber, porter, brown ale, stout, blah blah blah. You go through the Belgians and then IPAs with the face punching West Coast stuff, and then you end up coming back around to all the trendy stuff to this. And you have, and I imagine you are too. I'm in this space where I have a newfound appreciation for these type of beers, and where before I kind of would have found it boring or bland or whatever. Now I'm like, oh, wow, like so nuanced, it's so complex, there's so much going on in it. It's like, you're getting excited over Grandpa Yellow Fizzy beer, and hell yeah,
I know, yeah. No, I agree with you. Like I got in on that trend with the West Coast IPAs, and from like late 2000s all the way up until like mid 20, what do they call 20 teens or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I drank nothing but like West Coast IPAs, just like heavily hopped, good bitterness level, like big flavor and aromatics of that, and after about 10 years of that, and I was just I still really love the styles, but then I started to get into like like Kölsches or just European lagers, and enjoying them for what they were, and not necessarily looking. I wouldn't say I never looked negatively at them, but like it just wasn't what the craft movement was pushing towards, and that's what everybody was kind of into, and that's what was selling and trending, and like they're all great beers, and you just you kind of miss out on some of the nicer nuances that can be done with like let's say a Kölsch or continental lager from Europe, or what's even happening here in Canada or even North America.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's a fun. I'm happy this is the one of the latest trends. It's a great one. I think I would imagine it's making the brewers even happier than the drinkers, because this is the stuff, there's always kind of joked about being the brewer's beer, and the brewers brew the beer. So you make the call, and now everyone wants what you want to drink. So you're like, yes, love it now. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I know what I found out too, like opening up the brewery here in Huntsville is, there was such an interesting amount of feedback in what people were kind of expecting. Everyone was excited. They're like, "Oh, a brewery's coming to town. Huntsville's getting a brewery. This is great. We're so excited." And there were a lot of comments that were made that were more or less pointing towards traditional style beers, because there's a lot of drinkers like that, which is the majority of the beer drinking world, and they want like a beer, like they want to come and say like, oh, they have a good lager, they have a even the Kölsch, because it's a newer style to most people, so they're like, oh, I like this, or traditional red ale, or pale ale, and porter or stouts, like they just kind of want that group of style of beers, and if they're well done, be proud of that, and then they can talk very positively about our brewery. So that was something that we took into consideration starting out initially, just to make sure we had that portfolio of beers. And yes, going into like you're getting 20 taps, and just that would just allow us to have like endless opportunity to make the double IPAs, and
all the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff that like you want to be creative with, and like and look at having those beers around for the craft beer community. So like we didn't want to tie up our taps, with one or the other, have to choose between like having, say, our core beers, which would be the Kölsch lager, a couple IPAs, and this and that, and like, oh no, we have to toss one out, or whatever it is that we were that we'd have to make a decision of. So more taps, and not having them all kind of tied up with a beer like that. It just gave us more options.
I love it. No, it's smart, man.
And
keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, we gotta. Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, another side of that, like from my point of view, was that like with the traditional style of beers, like we have our building's all like 15,000 square feet. We have a 200 person event space in there, 3,200 square foot, with its own bar. We can fit, like, we had weddings. We actually had a wedding just prior to the pandemic. About 155 people were there, and so like keeping that in mind, like our total capacity is 407. So we wanted to like open the place up. We have two patios. We got a rooftop patio. We have another garden patio, all facing the river downtown. And with that event space, I wanted to make sure that we had, because not just craft beer drinkers were going to come to our place and rent our event space, but people were going to come and rent the event space because they wanted the space and have their wedding or event or function. And I just wanted to make sure that was a positive part of their experience if they were a light beer drinker, to IPA or pale ale, or like Kölsch or whatever. And so that would just be part of their great experience that they would have at Canvas, and that they would just enjoy our beer and the whole atmosphere of what we would offer, and go away. And then obviously that's the positive, word of mouth back, and to keep extending off of that.
I love that, man. That's a really smart way to go. And this kind of actually taps into a question here. Beer and a Bozo, shouts to you, bro. He actually got a really good one, and I think it's playing off exactly what you're saying. He said, when you brew in cottage country, you must want to make beers people buy by the case as opposed to picking up a can of this and that. Was there any sort of intent with the styles aside from what you've said already? Was that something that you had in mind?
Yeah, that was definitely sort of the driver on some of our core beers, especially with the so like our Kölsch is part of the core beers. We have our Last Light Lager, we have which is a 4.1%, kind of like in the light lager territory, and we have a Thunderhead West Coast IPA. We have our Porter. We have our Back Trail that we'll taste here today, and like we'll kind of move in a few others. We have a traditional, like we call it Huntsville Hefeweizen, so that's a traditional German wheat beer. And like it's honestly, I think in any brewer's um, so, part of a brewer, I think part of a brewer's goal is to sell volume of beer, not in, like, it doesn't have to be in a negative connotation, like one can could be good, but like to see like cases of your beer go out and then you see them come back. I won't say how frequently, maybe once a week, maybe a couple days,
Right.
but like they're coming out and they're picking up 12 packs and 24 packs, and they want to show their friends, and like they're not necessarily drinking it all themselves, but they want to pick up a case and then take it out and share it. Like that's it's very complimentary, and like that's sort of the goal. What you want is to have people want to buy the case, and most likely they're going to share it with their friends as they bring over. So that's definitely a goal to design that around your beers. Not all beers, like some beers you definitely are going to have like I made we have an Imperial spice beer at right now, and it's very multi-based. It's 9%. I use cinnamon, nutmeg, rosemary, and thyme.
Nice.
So it's got a very interesting mix of it's kind of like a Christmas cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of more of like on the winter side of things. So like when I have a beer like that, like I'm expecting someone to buy a couple cans. It's part of a tasting flight, and if it moves like that, like that's you just want someone to enjoy what they're drinking.
Right. I love it. So it's literally like covering all bases with what you do. Yeah, love it. Bit of a random sidebar. It just sort of hit me now when you mentioned the downtown area. I used to have a co-host back in 20. My friend Scott was my co-host for the first few years until he just got busy with life, and I just kept doing it. But his family is from Huntsville, and his uncle owns a health food store on like the main strip in downtown. Ken Cole, I think his name is.
Okay. Yeah.
Familiar?
Yeah, very familiar.
Yeah.
I don't know personally, but like I know of them. Yeah.
You know the thing? Okay, sweet. I wasn't sure because I know small towns. It's like a pretty small, tight main street. So I wasn't sure if that's where you are. And I started getting that visual, and I was like, oh wow, like that's a great spot to be with a damn.
Yeah, we're just across the river.
From that, okay.
So you go across the bridge, away from downtown, and like we're just on the other side of the river.
So excuse my ignorance because it has been some years since I've really sort of explored it. Are you not too far from Bracebridge and from Gravenhurst?
Yes,
very close. Okay, it's all kind of the same little region. So there's
we're all within Muskoka, like the Muskoka region. So Bracebridge has Muskoka Brewery. Sawdust City down in Gravenhurst. So we got a nice a nice center for craft beer up in Muskoka.
Perfect. Like a main brewery in every town that you could do it afternoon, going into an evening, and jump around to everything, plus some great bars and restaurants and stuff.
Exactly.
Which is
awesome.
awesome.
Do all your tour. Hit four different great breweries, or 4 or 5. There's Lake of Bays and Catalyst down in Bracebridge as well. They just opened up.
Okay.
And it's become a little, let's say, mecca, one of the many meccas in Ontario, which is really nice to see.
Like a little hub. I love it. No, it's great, man. So let's pull back a little bit. Let's get into your beer history. How did you get into craft beer, and then how did that lead to the beginnings of Canvas? I'd love to hear that story, man.
So the beginnings, I guess you would say, well, it starts with all like I just love drinking beer. I mean, that's kind of like the main thing. You're like, this is great. More than just like, a Coors Light or a Canadian. And that's kind of like where I think everyone starts is of age people, like definitely not teenagers or
Never.
underage, of course.
Wouldn't even.
Never.
19 on the money and over.
Especially when Mike's Hard Lemonade came around, or all those.
Yeah. Wouldn't have even looked at.
None of that. Yeah, that was a good night. Anyway, so I just started liking different flavors of beers, and I went off into I traveled off in Europe in my early 20s, got exposed to just the beer cultures that were there. I was never focused on it. I just
enjoyed it.
British beers, the pub beers, Belgium. I just like the beers there. German, like the main commercial breweries that were there, and it was just enjoying it. I went to Oktoberfest in Munich, and went to beer festivals when I was living in Scotland. I came home, and then I came back to Huntsville, moved back, decided to go to like Toronto. I wasn't really feeling it, decided to travel out west, and I ended up in Victoria, BC.
Nice.
And sort of settled down there for a little bit, and I got into when I left Europe, I decided, I was like, I'd like to homebrew. That seems like something that would be fun and interesting to do. And then when I sort of settled down in Victoria, I started to I started homebrewing, and as you probably know, there's a great like craft beer culture community out west in BC.
Oh yeah.
I just got into it, and then I started realizing there were like jobs and different opportunities. I just never realized that before. And I was homebrewing, and I entered a beer into a homebrew contest. I managed to get like a ribbon for I did a peat smoked Scotch ale. It was one of my first beers, and I was just like, it's not terrible. And some people that taste beer seem to like it. So like I just kept kind of snowballing. From there, I started looking for education. I went to Niagara College's brewmaster course.
Yes.
I did that for, I came back to Ontario to do that. I started working at Muskoka Brewery down in Bracebridge.
Nice.
That's where I really cut my teeth and started to start to brew. I was a production brewer there. Really learned a lot of great things. And just in the production side, work production, processing beer. From there, I went off into a place called Barnstormer down in Barrie, and I took a manager, the head brewer's job down there. So I took that. I was started there. It was just a basically brew pub, like a three barrel system, and then we upgraded to a 10-barrel system, and then went from like 500 hex per year to like 27 by the time I left, 2,700, sorry.
Wow.
And then the LCBO and like all the brands we had there were like really moving.
Yeah.
And and then a friend of mine, Steve Conkin, we similar kind of stories. Like he was off in Scotland for a bit, more educational purposes in terms of schooling. I was just backpacking and having fun, and then
got to do it.
Then he came. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he came back, and then we were back in the same town. We grew up just as kids, just down the road from each other. Got reacquainted with a group of friends. Then I went off to Barrie, and then he came up and proposed the idea. He's like, "Hey, I think we could get this to work." Obviously, financial side of things, and then he's like, "Oh, do you want to do this?" And like, it was a great opportunity, and we worked it out, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's get." It wasn't Canvas at the time. We didn't have the name, but like, let's get. We got the two main components figured out, so let's let's start moving this forward. Let's start looking for buildings, start looking for this. And, that was like 3.5 years ago on this from that side. So yeah, that's kind of the starting of, like that's basically Jeff's life in this
I love
quick
it. No,
snapshot.
you nailed it, bro. That's perfect. Why did you choose Huntsville for the base, or did you look elsewhere and just found the right space in Huntsville? Or how did that go down?
So, well, we're both from Huntsville, so it was the whole point was to stay and live here,
Right.
and make a business within Huntsville. So it wouldn't be like anything outside of the town limits. So we were looking at a few like properties in and around. So it is quite limited in what you can do. Like there's like warehouse space where you could just make a brewery and put some equipment in and start pumping beers out. But sort of the main goal that was in mind was to make a destination and add to the town's just add to the town's tourist and attractiveness of the town. Obviously we're seasonal cottage country, all that stuff. So we like wanted to make sure that we were a destination within the destination of Huntsville and Muskoka and the great.
Gotcha. That's great. No, I love it, man. And it makes sense because there was no brewery in Huntsville before you guys, right? Like you were the first one there.
And we were first one in Huntsville to make the production brewery, and
love it. And then you've got the other breweries in the surrounding towns to make it be as a weird industry, I guess, that it's the only kind of industry where it is a good thing to have other competitors around, because people like to, you're not going to sit at one brewery all day, but you'll visit 3, 4, 5. And there's extra reasons now. There's multiple towns, and not only does that help you guys in the beer industry, but I'm sure, like you said, for the tourist reasons, it'll help the other businesses in town, like the other restaurants and all that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And you know what the nicest bit is, like we if you're familiar with like Huntsville, so we went on we're on the other side of the river. We're in sort of it was definitely a rundown part of town.
Okay.
Like it's still right downtown. A lot of the buildings had been vacant. The building we our landlord purchased was empty for about 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
Prior to the purchase. So, and like a lot of the other buildings too, like that's where the beer store used to be. The LCBO used to be there. There was like a couple other restaurants, and everyone's kind of vacated too. It's a little hard to sell in that area. It's like a bit of it floods every spring,
right,
in the area.
Did it
so
flood?
Pardon?
Did it flood this year? I guess it's spring right now.
Well, no, because they managed the dams properly, so it didn't flood.
The good thing.
I won't take a whole jab at controlling those, but I mean,
that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, there's the whole other thing there. Yeah, there's but like you never know with like the springs, the floods, and like how much snow you get, and like it just gets anyways. So like it's a tough place to kind of get people to get in there. But what my point would just be is like it's just really nice that we've moved in, and we've basically kind of like revitalized that attractiveness of the area. We put a lot of there's a lot of money into the building, into the facade. Please, like everyone listening, and go Google us and check out our website too. And like we've got graffiti art all over the building. We've got a nice finishing. We've really tried to make it an attraction, and really kind of amplify which comes down to the name, of course. With canvas, part of the art side, and try to like make obviously beer's an art form, as well as like painting and all that kind of great stuff is an art form too. And just make that building an attractive piece of art for the town of Huntsville. And we've got a rich art history in the area, which I'm pretty sure Group of Seven and Tom Thompson are very synonymous in the area. So we were trying to, with the name as well, pay homage to that side of the history of the area.
I love it. Tiff just put up, for anyone watching right now, if you're listening, go Google it. But Tiff just put the virtual tour link in the comments. So if anyone wants to check that while we're yapping, you can take a bit of a squiz at the brewery, which I love. That's great. I'll leave that up there for a bit.
Also, sorry.
Yeah, man.
Sorry to cut you off. We have if you go to the Google Street View,
yep,
we already have a virtual tour through the whole building.
Is that this link? Tiff put a link. It says canvasbrewing.com/brewery. Is that the virtual tour link as well?
That should be it. Yeah, I think so. Like if you get in there, like you can go through the Google Street View. You can go right through the whole building.
Oh, I can see that there. She's showing me. Oh wow, this is dope. Yeah, this is. I've never seen a brewery. Oh, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, like it.
How'd you pull that off? That's amazing.
We know some good people.
I like it. That's how you do it. Secretive with the tech. Like, honestly,
we had good. We used to hire a company called Muskoka Virtual Tours.
Oh, they could bring that in and use that platform to film it. Way.
Yeah, he's got the 360 camera or whatever. He went through the whole place and then linked it into Google Street View.
What a champion! That's so sick.
Yeah.
So that is super cool. I was going to ask about the name, so you already beat me to it. It's beautiful. So you're focusing on art, like you said, beers and art, actual paintings as well. So really bringing that in. I imagine that you've got a lot of space. You probably had a lot of musicians and stuff like that in for another side of the art.
Yep. Yeah. Musicians, like we love live music, and we just wanted to. Have live music, have big bands, have all that great stuff. Like our capacity, like I said, is like nearly 400, and we just really want to pack that.
Big for a brewery, bro. Big. Yeah, man.
Well, yeah. Like so, the main goal is to get people in your building and drinking draft beer, and like on a business side of things, like that's where the best margins on your product is. And and then tying back into an attraction, a reason for people to come. There's multiple different reasons, and and just to bring as many people together as we possibly can. Yeah. And as well as like maximize the tourist influx in the summer, because we're such a seasonal, summer seasonal based area. Yeah. That if we could fit 400 people in there all the time throughout the summer, like the winters aren't so dark and cold.
That's a good point.
So that kind of gives us it's basically the strategy of everybody up here. I mean, it's no different from all the other businesses. We just try to utilize what we can here.
I love it. Yeah. That's dope. I'm just looking at the time. I feel like it might be pale ale o'clock.
Yeah, let's do it.
How you feel?
Let's do it.
When you come back, thank you. Grab the other token. Thank you so much. Tell us about this the pale ale. I'm really enjoying this Kölsch there. It's going down a treat. My God. Yeah, man. Tell us about the pale ale.
So this is our one of our other, I guess you'd say, like flagship beers. We got our Back Trail Pale Ale.
Beautiful. Nice color.
I guess you would say kind of in more of the session pale ale kind of category. 4.5%. It's 25 IBUs, but the bitterness is really low. Like I balanced it quite well with the. I've got wheat, barley, obviously, and then oats. So it's like the wheat malt and the flaked oats that I've really tried to make a big, juicy kind of body to it. Okay. I wouldn't say like hazy or juicy kind of thing, but it's still like, you can taste it once you drink it. I use cashmere, Amarillo, Equinox, Incognito, which is a
hot Incognito. Yeah, nice. Expensive as hell, eh?
Yeah, sort of. It kind of balances, I'd say, with
because you're saving the liquid, I guess.
With the amount of from the hot side.
Yeah.
And then the flavor compounds that you get off the Whirlpool side, and with the yield, kind of balances that side out. Plus, those like anything on the hot side is typically more stable than dry hopping. Okay. So you have you have like a better, more stable aromatic and flavor note. And then when you're thinking about shelf life, because typically beers, go from fridge to warm to transporting to the shelf on the LC or like wherever it's going, all those influxes like really start to break down dry hop.
Yeah.
Basically the essential oils in there, and so you lose that. You typically lose that little bit of magic that makes dry hop beers so wonderful, and that's why brew pubs are just the best place to go get the freshest beer, because you just know it's there. It's right off draft. There's been little. It's been refrigerated, very little oxygen ingress, and you get a better beer. You just get a better, fresher. Well, you get a fresher beer.
Yeah.
And like you still get good fresh beer out, but you just gotta take it with a grain of salt that it's going to be slightly aged, no matter how long Purelate or shook it around before it got replaced.
Yeah, sometimes it's so funny because of all the shipping. You've got like the winter, like receiving packages. There was always one beer that it froze and exploded, and then in summer you got the problem with the with all of that. So may I just go over the hops again? So it's Amarillo, Equinox.
Yeah, Incognito, Equinox.
The Incognito was Equinox. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I've got Jerry Lou, which is Slovenian hop.
Okay.
And then Cashmere and Centennial.
Cashmere, Centennial. Making sure we get this one. All right, beauty. Cheers, mate. Get in ya.
Cheers.
Great. I gotta say, this is probably one of the clearest pale ales I've seen in a while. I feel like, oh wow, that is juicy. This is like deceiving.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. I like this. Like it's got like a huge that exactly how you described it. I feel like it's juicy, but it doesn't have but it's got like a crisp body.
Yeah,
so like
I can be right back.
Yeah, man. No worries. Yeah, I definitely haven't had anything completely like this in a while. So the body is like sort of almost like a lager in that sense, as far as that level of crispness in it. The nose is like fruity nose. I'm just taking these notes as I'm talking you guys through it. Fuck it, let's go. Definitely dry.
Yeah, so I wanted to go with like a really nice dry finish on it, like nice and crisp, like you're kind of saying, but like that big kind of juicy body that you get from the oats, and like with the hop choicing, like the Cashmere and the Amarillo. Really, I really like the orangey citrus side, because usually you find like lemon citrusy notes from like a lot of the other hops or those other kind of big other tropical fruits. I really liked having the oranginess that I get out of Amarillo. Yeah. And ever since I heard of Amarillo or just tasted Amarillo in beers, like that's always been one of my favorite hops.
Yeah, I can see why. It's a great one. Yeah, this is fascinating, dude. I feel like the body is really similar to like the Kölsch or something like that. Like it's super crisp. It's got a nice sharp carbonation, but it's got this juice in it. To be honest, what it reminds me of is like a lighter brut IPA.
Right, yeah.
In the
I can see that.
It's just like one of the most unique pale ales I've had in some time. What was the inspiration behind this one? I guess making something obviously that's quite crushable and refreshing, because it seems to be. It's like almost like a cross between like a crispy boy, like a lager Kölsch type of thing, and like a brut IPA. So somewhere in the middle there, where it's lighter and refreshing. I guess it's called Back Trail. It's got the trees on the label, so it seems like a hiking kind of beer. And I feel like this has like all of the crisp dryness that you would have from a lager or a pils, but with this additional level of juicy fruitiness that is they kind of hits the spot in a different way. It's not overwhelming. It's not too heavy. Yeah, it's crazy unique, bro.
Um, I guess I have to say it's the pale ale that I like to drink. Like
Okay.
it's kind of like the style I like to drink, and I think some of that does come from a lot of the pale ales that that I've been drinking at like in Britain when I was over there.
Okay.
Like when you go, like if you go to Britain and you get some like nicely fresh hopped uh, beer there, and like pale ale or even IPA, like they're all like 3.5%,
Really?
like from 0.2 to like 4%, and like they're just like bright, like citrus notes from some of their hops, which you don't really think about. Like when you think about British beers, you think of some of the other styles that come out of there. And I just remember drinking all these beers and just enjoying their hops that they have in there. A little more on the lemon limey kind of citrus notes to it. I guess that might have kind of translated into what I really enjoyed about trying to get this beer to where it is. And I do like a little bit of a higher I'd say higher carb, not tremendously high, but at least that the acidity from the so like when you carbonate it, like obviously there's like carbonic acid, that's what's like in there. So like that extra acidity helps to amplify those citrus notes that you get from the hops. So that's like a very like small or a minute kind of detail that you can help, as well as like like if it's a little more effervescent, like with a little bit more carbon to it, it helps drive out those aromatics too. It gives you that kind of it's one detail to kind of play with like with each beer.
Yeah. That's a great word. I always forget about that one. Effervescence is a great way to describe it. That's exactly what it feels like. Interesting that it's like based off the British stuff. I guess like when I think of British like IPAs, you think of that kind of darker, caramelly kind of malts. Definitely, like you mentioned, you don't really think of citrus fruits or anything like that. Like it's kind of that like bitter, dark, toffee almost.
Yeah, they use a lot of the traditional caramel malts, like you would say, like for English IPAs, and like that's definitely what like you would see here. But I remember seeing, and I remember tasting, I remember more in the pale ale. I saw some IPAs dated that way, and like on the cask scale, and like the beer engines that are just pulling pints, and you're just like, this is just amazing stuff.
Right.
And I just like those kind of components about it, and maybe that manifested itself through this.
Hey man, that's great. It's cool to see those like influences shine through that maybe you wouldn't expect. So, so we're talking about it all. So you opened in 2018.
The location. So we started selling about summer 2018.
Okay.
And then we 2019 in December we did a soft opening for the building. Finally finished our construction. Gotcha. So we had the building back in 2018 at that point in time, and we were just in the beginning stages of getting permits and construction and all that great stuff. So
gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So you started with the Kölsch. You were canning from the beginning.
We started canning first batch, and then did a couple kegs, and then quickly realized we need more kegs and more beer, and then just kind of snowballed from there.
Love it.
Yeah.
And so I guess it worked out pretty well that you had all the canning, equipment leading into all the craziness that's been happening the last year. So you were kind of good to go.
Oh no, we don't have. Yeah, we're still like the mobile canning.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Well, that's fine. At least you're able to still get it, whatever you need done then. Okay, good.
Yeah. Great service. And, it was sort of like one of those costs that we just didn't want to do up front initially. And we could manage it and then eventually get our own canning line. But we're still doing it for, obvious reasons with like with all the lockdowns, like moving in and out, it's kind of, it's kind of hard to commit to a lot of big purchases.
Totally.
And so we're still doing it, and it's great. Yeah.
Love it. So how has it all been for you guys? Being that, like, I guess it's coming into the second summer. Like, obviously, we're here in Montreal. We're still on a curfew here. Like, we haven't been to a brewery in the city for a year plus. Like, a long time. How has it been for you guys? I imagine it might have been a little different, being that you guys have less people until all the folks from Toronto came in and ruined it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been kind of tough. Like I think with Ontario opening and closing so frequently,
Yeah.
it's been very difficult to kind of plan certain like promote, plan. Like you open, you close. It's been really frustrating on that side, just to try to commit and open. Our bigger pushes were like the biggest new thing that we had, and it's been a couple of weeks, is we've just got the back trail that we're actually tasting right now into the LCBO, which is
Nice.
For everyone else out there. There's the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. Basically, it's the main store that most craft brewers prefer to sell their beer at in Ontario. And we just got this beer in. We got a full-time listing. We're in 10 stores already, and just it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, because now we have an outlet to actually sell to about nearly 600 stores in Ontario, where like before, like we were basically I talked great, like big things about 400 people, big concerts, the event space, the pub. Like we could maximize all that great stuff in there, but now we can't do that, obviously, with COVID and all the restrictions. But I'd like to have this outlet, and to be able to start to sell that way has been quite refreshing and kind of exciting, because we actually can kind of like generate sales that are not in our town. So we're like not as limited to just on-site sales, which was kind of very nerve-wracking last spring.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Which is,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot. You guys have been through a lot, with breweries and up and down, on and off, on and off. Like, it's, it must be pretty crazy. But that's a good look to get into LCBOs. It gives you another whole outlet.
Yeah.
I heard word that they passed a law where people can now open up their own specialty beer store as long as you sell food, and the food could just be chips,
Yes.
which is
Yeah. So there's a
insane.
lot of like, yeah. Pardon?
I love it. It's insane. Like, I feel like that news kind of went under the table. Like, I feel like that was what
Yeah.
people were fighting for forever. And I feel like it just kind of, like, someone told me just casually the other day. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, why aren't
Yeah.
people like jumping from the rooftops about this? This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like it is, and there's a lot of like, like bars and restaurants, especially, they're opening up bottle shops. So like we haven't been selling tremendous amounts through them, but it's been just a nice outlet for a lot of them. And like as well, like we have a bar license, like we could sell like a signature cocktail or something like that, or we could actually purchase beer ourselves at Canvas and have a bottle shop too.
Right.
So there's a lot of unique opportunities with it, um, that like it was never around before, or even just never considered, or I guess the lawmakers were never considering it.
Right. I mean, I guess it
Yeah.
took this now to let bars and restaurants do that, to give them an extra avenue for revenue. And I have enjoyed seeing. They're not really doing it here as much. Here is a different conversation,
Mhm.
but I've seen a lot of my friends. Like I was telling you before, Nathan, who runs our blog up in Ottawa, he's able to get, Dominion City or Bar Lupulus or something like that. Will just be grabbing beer from like Barncat or different people from all
Right.
Toronto or just around, and they'll be able to sell it out of the store there. So he has access to a ton of different stuff, and whenever it comes up, he'll just go and grab a bunch of stuff from breweries that maybe he normally wouldn't have access to, and that not only supports those breweries, but it supports the those other local businesses. And I just think that's such a fantastic program that they've finally allowed. You know, to give you guys a bit more, because we've had the specialty beer stores here forever in Quebec, so that's it's never really been a thing. So like
as much as there's an Ontario Quebec thing, it's like you guys are so much better than we are.
Well, to be fair, we don't have delivery. We can't do shipping. So
you can't.
No, man. So we got the specialty beer store, the gas stations, and all that stuff. The gas stations don't sell craft beer. It's not like Vermont; they sell hot garbage stuff. But in the specialty stores are obviously killer. Supermarkets have always been able to do it, and now they're getting more and more craft beers in supermarkets, which is great. But we can't do so. I can't order from anywhere. No one. You can order and pay online, and then go pick it up. But like it's made like the hype beer that I thought would be easier to get, like 10 times harder to get now, because everybody can just wait at home and have bots or whatever buy the stuff online, and they have to go pick it up. So yeah, that's one thing that you guys really have. I know Half Hours on Earth, I think, were the ones to really start it off, because they're kind of located in the middle of nowhere. I think they were the first ones, and then now because of all this, like damn near every brewery in Ontario has an online store that either does home delivery, where there's physically someone driving around doing drop-offs, or you just chuck it in a box and ship them out.
Like, online store, like we could basically ship nationwide if we wanted to. I mean,
do you know what I learned about this? I'd be curious to see. I heard when all of this started for us, we just started doing these lives and stuff, and we weren't always interviewing breweries. It's just kind of how it happened. It just figured out to be this way, and it's great. So Tiff and I, my girlfriend, our producer, we would just sort of do it together at first. And for one of the episodes, we looked up what the law was, and it was some law from like 1928 that's the thing that is restricting everything. But apparently the federal government passed a law that actually allowed exactly what you're saying, like allowed shipping nationwide. But the caveat is that each province has to have a tax agreement with every other province. So the only reason that I can't go on canvasbrewing.com and order to Montreal is that Ontario and Quebec don't have an agreement of how the taxation is going to work, and vice versa. And Ontario doesn't have one with BC, and neither does Quebec, and blah blah blah. So we can't do it. So the only way is it's ridiculous, man. It's like if they figured all this other shit out during this, but they didn't figure that part out. Like, come on, like, this is where, like, I mean, some people don't care and they'll just do it.
No. Well, like in the future is like e-commerce.
Hell yeah.
And with a lot of different things, and like people are going to start to realize that you could buy beers from some brewery because you have access through the internet to see this whatever Ontario brewery, Quebec brewery, and like I can order whatever minimum order they want and get it shipped.
Right.
Like we're hanging on to laws that are 100 years old, and everyone's griped about, prohibition and all that kind of stuff, and it's lingering effects, which are still here in law, which are, very expensive to repeal.
Yeah.
Which should lawyers are not cheap.
Not at all. It's just so like ridiculous when like they're able, like every I feel like every province has made concessions, even small things. You guys had you were able to buy bottles of like liquor off Uber Eats or whatever. Like you could order from a restaurant, they could sell you bottles of wine, single cans or bottles of beer, and booze at LCBO prices, by the way, not like the inflated restaurant prices. But then here we still can't do the booze. Or maybe we can. They only just opened. You guys were doing it like last year, and I think only recently
they immediately did that in Ontario, and like
that was great.
Weird.
And it's like, great, oh wow.
Well, it's like how long is this going to stay?
I believe it's all permanent. Is my understanding.
But it is permanent. And it was like, initially when it came out, you're like, oh, okay.
What are they going to do?
Oh no, it's going to stay, and like, it's fantastic. I think it's great. I think it's
great. Amazing. Like, do you know what it is like? Where I'm from Australia, and back there's a lot of what we would call like the nanny state. definitely overarching regulations that control everything. Like, you can't ride a bike without a helmet, or you're gonna get the cops will pull you over, type of thing, right? So I'm used to growing up, everything is overregulated, and then I feel like in Ontario, like, I feel like they've kind of got a little bit too much. Before, when I first moved here, it felt like Canada was like, wow, you don't have to wear a helmet and ride a bike, you can just go. Like, I was like, wow, that's crazy. And over time, I'm starting to see that there's other regulations in other areas, such as, alcohol, that are ridiculous, essentially. And as we're seeing, Quebec, you've been able to drink in the park as long as you have some food with you for forever. I've been here 9 years almost, and you've been able to do that. No one's like dying of alcohol. I've never seen a drunk person in the park. People are chilling. They're just having a quiet glass of wine and some meat and cheese. Yeah. No one's getting trashed. I got gas stations here. You go in, you pay for your gas, and you grab a sixer of some hot garbage beer if you want. Like, the restricting and that babying of people isn't helping. So now they're like, oh, you've made bottle shops legal in Ontario. Oh, and restaurants can sell stuff, and people aren't dying. Like, I'm like, see, you idiots. Like, it's fine. You're just being ridiculous. It's almost like, even here, breweries weren't allowed to sell growlers until only a few years ago. And open fermentation, cool ships, was only recently legalized before COVID, but it took forever. You guys were able to do it so much longer. So, like, there's all these ridiculous, things that have come on from the 1920s, essentially, from those ridiculous prohibition laws that never really left. I guess Australia might not have been part of that, so that's probably why things were a little looser out there, and you could have an independent bottle shop. And all the independent bottle shops out there, this is the next step, I think, for Canada. I forgot that it happened in Australia, but I went to San Diego, and they had like Bottle Craft, which is like you basically they have like a counter that sells like meat, cheese, bread, all local, all the fridges with the beers, and then they've got like 10 taps, so you can get a pour, go drink, fill up your basket with bottles of beer and cans of beer and stuff and wine or whatever. Buy some local meat and cheese, and then you could even pay for a corkage fee and crack one of the cans or bottles too. So you could just drink it there. So like, and then they have that in Australia, and they're like these bottle shop hybrids, and they have a lot in obviously not just in San Diego. But that was the first place I saw it. I've been to like Philly and a bunch of other places that had the same thing. I'm like, this is the coolest shit ever. Like,
it might take another generation to let some people kind of move on before we get some laws shaken up on that side.
Baby steps.
We're happy with grocery stores at this point.
Yeah, let's shut our mouths and stick with the grocery. Oh, and the bottle shops, the independent bottle shops.
That's fantastic. I would love to do my shopping and or especially shop like you're saying and drink a beer.
It's so cool.
Do my shopping, I'd be afraid of like broken glassware. It must be plastic cups.
I think, you know what? The place I went to is literally, we flew in. My friend lives there. He's from Toronto, but he got American citizenship, and he lives out there. And this was like 4 years ago, but we went out there. The first thing got from the airport, he took us straight to Bottlecraft, and it blew my mind, because you're already just happy to be somewhere warm, and then all of a sudden you're in this bottle shop. I'm like, whoa! This was at the time when hazy IPAs were just coming out. I'm like, oh my god! You could get a pour. I was losing my shit, and it was glass. But my boy in Texas, that's a whole other place too. He said they let you do it in Whole Foods. So you can get a pour, because they sell draft beer there too. And you can walk around Whole Foods while you're shopping. That's the next level again. Because I'm talking, these stores are like super small, size of a living room, fridges on the walls, maybe an aisle or two in the middle with some other stuff. So it's just like, it was such a nice experience. And when I went back to Australia, which I once again, I'd been back a few times, but when they had it there, I was like, wow, this is like, it just made me feel how, people weren't dropping dead because these things existed. So it's,
well, exactly.
We're getting somewhere, So
exactly. Yeah. I completely agree. I just remember going to Europe, and, you would do basically the same thing you said in like Quebec. You go in parks or whatever. You can have a beer. You can buy something. You can kind of walk and do this. And like, that was so foreign to me. and I definitely I embraced it. I really liked, like I could have a beer and like go off and I just remember like the attitude, like especially with the policing of all that, is like as long as you weren't like belligerent or I won't say a swear word or anything, but like if you weren't like one
You
of
can
those
cuss.
type of people.
Go beer and other shit, so.
True. Yeah, you do have shit in your name.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Yeah, as long as you're not being a a dickhead, like everything's fine.
Yeah.
Like just go about your day, just be
chill.
a human being,
Yeah.
and enjoy yourself. Have a beer after whatever hard day's work, or just continue drinking if that's your thing. And then yeah, just live life. It was just it just felt like what should be. And I was going to say something too. I just remember my dad saying uh, in Ontario when he turned 18 at that time was like the drinking was 18 in the 70s, and he was like he just remembered going to the bar, whatever seedy like Canadian tavern bar that was there, and like you'd see the people because you had to at, at I don't know if it was like provincial wide or whatever. It was like at this it was a law at the time. You had to every drink have a piece of food served with it.
Okay.
So like you couldn't order one without the other, or like you couldn't order beer without a drink without food. And so like you you said all you'd see is like the old boys sitting there, like there's always the old boys that are just sitting there drinking all day, and he would just see a stack of cheese sandwiches
just piled up.
just piled up beside him. You're like, okay, he's had like 8.
You can count them.
just see it like stack up on a plate beside him, or then you have like like the same cheese sandwich or like whatever whatever food they were trying to like get around the law just to give them like that piece of food, and it's like, okay, yeah, there's the same cheese sandwich going out for every order. It's like people just getting around the law. It's like you're just gonna have a couple beers and it's gonna be what it is. Yeah.
People are gonna figure out a way around it every time, so you might as well just at least. I mean, look, I guess if it took a pandemic for people to get their shit together, then I mean, like that's one positive that's come out of this, right? That maybe people are a little more chill about things that they didn't need to be uptight about in the first place. Yeah. It's
so it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, look, at least you're able to sell to a few of those bottle shops, and hopefully that'll only increase over time. And now you got this bad boy in LCBO, which is great. Congrats, man. It's a great look. Just
thank you.
Now, 10 stores, 590 more to go.
Yeah.
It's
the
potential is great. The potential is super cool with that. And I know it's not an easy task to get a beer in LCBO either, so which is great.
Yeah. You just gotta learn the process, and they know what they like. So you gotta it's a 2-way street. Gotta play with what they like. Yeah. As a brewer, you gotta kind of take that into consideration when you're dealing with them and make adjustments. And the name of the game, you want to pay your bills.
It's really what it is, man. Brand awareness too. You want people to be able to come into the brewery after the fact. Hopefully this summer is Tiff is saying, Tiff is my producer. Yeah, such a nice setup. She's loving the setup. The brick wall, loving the brick wall. So you're.
I was only allowed to choose a guitar.
That's all you got. Hey, well, your contribution was exceptional. Is your wife Diana? That's her name, right? Yeah, she's killer job. I spoke to her on Instagram before. I'm like, wow, I couldn't believe she got the stories. It was so cool. I was very, very, very.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at. She's listening. I figured she'd be in the background there. So great job. Tiff saying great guitar selection. You did well. Should we? I know we're like only halfway through this beer. In the interest of time, should we go to the next bad boy? How do you feel?
Yeah, we can.
Yep. Just want to make sure we cover everything, and I am conscious of not keeping you all night because we were joking earlier that we do the podcast at night because it's just how it happened to be. We thought people don't have shit to do on a Friday night, so we just started doing it that way during that, not considering brewers' schedules. Oh, the Hazy IPA. Thank you so much. Not considering brewers' schedules don't always, match up well with, evenings. So I appreciate your dedication, but I'm not trying to keep you up to 1 a.m. type of thing.
No, it's okay. I'm having a few beers now. It's all good.
Oh, you're chilling. So the next one, now I believe this is the one that my brother got to, he posted. Oh, this is like super fresh too, damn. This is the Hazy IPA right here. There she is. Look at that. Bam. So this was the when I first saw the can for this. I thought this was super cool. I like the, love a good generic label that you can put the little thing on there, which is dope. Looks super clean. I love the colors of this, man. It's cool, and I like it in the short cans too. Short cans are super fun, crushable, single serve, not too much, not too little.
Well, exactly, yeah. That's what we liked about the smaller cans, especially in the bigger beers, bigger flavored beers. It's just a nice serving.
Yeah, it's great. I love the small cans. They're so underrated. Whenever I see them, I'm always super, super happy to get them. So tell us about this one, man. So, I mean, the first two we had, now you got your LCBO listing with the Pale Ale. We got the Kölsch, the Classic. Now we're moving into the next two are kind of more of the trendier stuff. So that's like a really nice selection. So, tell us about this one.
So, it was our Hazy IPA. The big hops in this one are the Citra and Idaho 7.
Ooh, I love
Citra, everyone kind of really knows. Citra is generally like a massive tropical fruit notes to it.
Yes.
Oh man, you can smell it from here.
Oh yeah, it's bursting.
Idaho 7's like really on top of that, like more of that pineapple kind of note to it.
Yes.
And like definitely with the hazy beers, kind of like we're talking with initially the back trail, that kind of body, that juicy bit. So you really want to play on the oats side of it, and or like kind of other flaked adjuncts like that. So you really want to get that the oats or wheat into it, and like it gives you a nice like juicy body to it. I would say the trickiest thing with this beer is that to make a permanent haze so that it doesn't
flocculate.
Flocculate out, exactly. That you just want to like, it's not the timing and quantities of how much hops you put in to bind to all the proteins, like, which is kind of a funny thing about this whole beer and the whole beer style in itself, because like everything that I've been taught and strived for, like say from the first beer that we tried with the Kölsch, the whole brewing process is really set up to like clarify the beer.
Yeah, totally.
Just to make things super clear. That's just, was sort of a mark of like, a well-aged beer, well-presented beer. It's a good thing for what it is. And this is kind of like the complete opposite of what you're trying to achieve with like the brewing process, and try to make sure that haze is permanent.
Right.
Because, like what you're trying to do is like, bind like basically those hop like polyphenols and the proteins out of like your basically from your oats and your wheat, and make sure that haze is permanent. It doesn't drop out. So like that's it's a different, unique set of processing. It's kind of fun because like you get to do something completely different that like that's it adds such a unique style to the brewing portfolio that you're going to have.
Definitely. This is what all the kids are drinking these days, so it's some quality stuff, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice. Yeah, you nailed that body right there. So it's got that sort of creamy body. It's got that like chalkiness, which I really enjoy. I really appreciate like a chalky beer that kind of like dries your tongue out there.
Yeah. You got that nice bitterness. Yeah, it's still part of the bitterness though. Like it's kind of nice to like put that underneath that.
Yes. Idaho 7, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I learned recently, it's arguably my favorite hop, but I believe, which I didn't realize, it has like a bit of a herbal sort of thing to it. Is that accurate, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, it comes out slightly. You don't really see it like too much. I think that's maybe in like the Kettle, like the Whirlpool kind of side of hops.
Okay.
If you do your addition on that side, you can get a bit out of the dry hop, I think. But I usually do see that. I see beer and Bozo. Beer and Bozo.
Yeah, beer and Bozo, saying expensive hops because you.
Oh yeah, very expensive.
Yeah.
Well, hazy New England IPA is already expensive, so just add it on. It's okay.
Just throw it in there. It's part of the deal, right? People know. Exactly. Oh, he asked what yeast. Oh, is it this one? Is it like London?
So that's actually that's usually part of the most critical because you want like a low flocculating yeast.
It's good.
I tried this out because usually people use like Foggy London, or they use was it White Labs? Oh shoot, what are they?
Oh yeah. Not the California
blank. I used Fermentis S33.
Okay.
So the interesting thing I found about that yeast, like they told me that's what this purpose was for hazy beers and all that. But what they did is they basically took a Belgian yeast and they took the phenolic compound out of it. So they kind of modified the yeast a bit so that you get most of the esters, but none of the phenols out of it, which gives you the allspice character.
Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah.
And so you get that, but you also get the characteristic of the yeast that it just stays in suspension, and you get that like less flocculating character, the sort of for the hazy beers as well.
Right. So for a brewery like you guys who are based in an area that has people who are want their traditional beers a lot, not obviously not all of your clientele, but a reasonable amount. How have people responded to these more sort of trendy new age beers? The people who come in and want their amber ale or want their blonde or want just a standard type of brew. How have they been like interested in it, or are they like get that away from me, or what's the deal there?
I would say that they're more inclined to try it. There's some people that just like will never move, they'll never budge if they found something they actually like of yours, that are like, okay, they like the light lager and they try our light lager and they're happy. They don't really budge from that too much. But you start to get that curiosity, and then people trying to like expose them to different styles of beer because like they can see people enjoy it, and you can see more people start to expand like their different tolerance. I won't say tolerances, but like just different amount of
maybe
exposure and I guess palate adaptability to these other styles, like like with hops, you kind of start incrementally from a pale ale and move up, and then they start to like actually enjoy, and they find that they enjoy these flavors.
Like whoa,
yeah, exactly. So like it just we find like there's a different it's been kind of difficult, mostly because like we really haven't had a chance to open up the place completely. So like to start off on the right foot, I think from what I said at the beginning, that to do a bunch of traditional style beers, and that they've come in already in a positive mind frame, and they're just like, oh, Canvas does good beer, this would probably be good as well. And so that's been a very positive thing towards like exposing people to other sides of to other styles of beer, and that they like they may not like the flavors or they may not like the style, but they appreciate that it's good for what it is, and that's kind of like where you really want to bring people to. And so that they're just like, oh, it's not my style, but I think it's good. And like if you can get people to say like that in terms of like, I guess you'd say like philosophical with beers and beer styles, like okay, that's just like you want to get somebody to that where like I love light lager, I don't want to get off of that, but I like this and it's good flavors, but I don't, I only want to sip, and like that, that's as best you can get on somebody.
I mean, that's a good point. Some people just like what they like and they're not willing to try other stuff. But I like what you're saying there. That if there's people who come in regularly and they're like, "Well, Canvas does good beer," even if I don't know if this is for me, I should probably try it because they do everything else well. So this might be interesting, and hopefully, what I found, to be honest, and that's kind of where I was coming from with this, was that of all styles of beer that convert people to craft beer, I would say that the two main ones that do are New England IPAs and some sours. Sours tend to speak to maybe like a white wine drinker or someone who likes something a little like sweet and sour like that. And then this is just like a sweet, creamy thing, and they're like, "What? This doesn't taste like that fizzy yellow stuff."
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting. I was just curious because of your location as to whether maybe you've noticed that folks are into this. When did you start doing the trendy stuff? By the way, was that more of a recent thing?
No, it was within the first year. Ooh. So I think sorry, was it your brother? You said it takes
my brother. Yeah, I think like his friend either went up there or whatever, but brought him some. So that he had Hazy Ipa, and I think he had one other that I posted.
There was you guys took a photo, I think, of our Citra single pale ale and then Simcoe. I think that was the two there.
That were the two.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So like I did those back last summer.
Okay.
So they were always kind of like
sounds about right.
To like come out and there's definitely a lot more plans to do some more like trendy stuff, and like I've actually got a wild ferment. It's sitting in like one of those plastic totes, like it's not even in a fermenter or anything like that, and it's just sitting in the brewery. I'm just waiting to like finish it and package it and get it going. Like, and it had a spontaneous fermentation in it too. So like we're gonna, I'd love to do some more like, I guess you'd say like very, very experimental stuff with, like just, spontaneous fermentation to a lot of like other types of beer, and just to get into that kind of like, I guess more niche markets as well. And, like, I guess starting with like a good base of like traditional beers to start off with, but like we're going to continue to go down that kind of like rabbit hole with the trendiness and with like those kind of styles and experimenting and with all that good stuff, and like it's just not going to stop. I mean, like it's kind of endless, which is the fun part about it.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Beer and a Buzz is saying spontaneous beers are going to be a thing. I feel like here in Quebec, I feel like they've been a thing for a bit because it kind of aligns with the way the Quebec beer scene has been. We've been traditionally quite slow to pick up on the trendiest stuff, and now they have over the last maybe year or two. But previous to that, I feel like the spontaneous aligned. They were into the farmhouse and all that type of stuff. I imagine the spontaneous stuff has been happening out. I mean, I feel like it's still. I guess I get what he's saying. Like, you mean like that more and more people are going to do them. I feel like it's few and far between, I guess, now I think about it. But I've seen it a bunch out there. I know Bellwoods has a cool ship.
Yep.
A bunch of other folks have been doing stuff like that. I don't think it's super uncommon or anything. But so it's cool that you got one. That's great, man.
Yeah, not a cool ship per se, but like
still spontaneous.
Kind of like yeah, still in totes. Like it was initial. It was initially primary like fermentation with like a Belgian yeast, and then it just something got in there, and like, okay, let it go, age it out, and see where we're getting, and go from there. So,
love it.
Yeah, it's pretty.
How's it tasted?
It's tropical. It's fruity. It's definitely like a Brett of some kind, and it's pretty. It's pretty neat. I'm trying to debate whether to fruit it, or I'm not sure like what to go in terms of the finish yet. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what's going to happen.
I love it. Do you have a barrel program or anything, or any plans for something like that?
Yeah. So I got a barrel. I've got. Sorry, 1 second. Can I come back?
Of course, yeah, man, yeah. No worries. Yeah, loving a bit of the spontaneous beers out here. I feel like, yeah. So on that note, dude, like I feel like the spontaneous stuff are yeah, they've probably going to pick up more. In my mind, I guess, I feel like I've seen them around a bit, so I kind of feel like it's a thing, but it's not like our thing. So at least here now it's legal. I know there's Breda Sauvage in Gaspésie that their whole brewery, I think, is mostly all spontaneous shit. There's nothing that can't be fixed with Mosaic. Honestly, I've heard that a lot. God damn it. But yeah, I feel like there's definitely a lot more spontaneous stuff happening, which is super cool. Yeah, like I'm trying to think out here now that it's legal. Well, I know in Ontario, Bench has this crazy room, like at the top of they have like a full funk side, like a funk side and like a clean side. And at the top of their funk side, they got this room I've never seen it before, where they've got special windows where you can open them and close them, so that let stuff in. We're just talking about I was just yapping on about the spontaneous stuff in the meantime. Yeah, that's starting to become more and more common. But yeah, so you said you have some barrels right now.
Yeah, so I've got Buffalo Trace. I got like 4 bourbon barrels.
Nice.
I put our porter in, and I've taken one out, and like it's just I don't know. I think it's just like bourbon, like just the Buffalo Trace bourbon. Like it's just like a really smooth bourbon whiskey that really like translated well into our porter. Like it's not a very high alcohol porter to begin with. I just did our like it's like 5.5% porter, and it just those flavors are just like really smooth. You get the vanilla from the oak barrel. You get a little bit of woodiness from the oak, and then you get like all those nice like the caramel, the cocoa flavors from the porter, and it just kind of like it works really well at a lower alcohol.
What does it come to once it's out of the barrels?
I usually find that it like I haven't got it measured with an alkalizer yet, but he's drinking
Buffalo Trace right now. Look at that, perfect time.
Nice, and then they're usually find like the first infusion is about 1% higher than what the alcohol you put into the barrel.
Okay.
So anywhere like from 0.8 to, for 0.8 to 1.0%, you get kind of a bump up in the barrel, and you can usually see that they come through, and like that's where like kind of those like booziness notes really start to complement each other at a higher alcohol. Yeah,
love it. That's great, man. I like that. I feel like I don't hear that enough. Like, people, that's why I was just curious. Where you're putting in a 5-6% beer into a barrel and then see what happens. That's crazy. I like that because it's kind of be sometimes it's like I guess that's why I was commenting before on like the package size. I have a whole new appreciation for these bad boys. And even if you look at like high ABV stouts, like that come in like a 750, like I know it's a pandemic. Who's sharing that these days? Like it's the smaller the packaging, the better. So I like the idea of a barrel aged, like a bourbon barrel aged or whatever, 5.5% porter that would come in a short can because it's not overly boozy, but you get a lot of the elements, those big ones that you can in a single serving that doesn't get you, it's not your one beer for the evening or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit of a challenge. Now we can't share anything with anybody now. So,
yeah, definitely now. And then I always found like you can't, like you have those big bottles, but you never find any friends to share it with sometimes.
And all of a sudden,
and you're like
6 months later, you got 100 of them sitting around. You're like, oh, what am I supposed to do with these?
I think that's why beer ages so long. Like it's like, oh well, like I'd love to try this, but I don't have the right person to try it with.
Right. So it's like, ooh, they wouldn't appreciate it.
Around it. Like, oh well, it's 2 years old now.
Like I imagine you do too. I'm even just thinking, like right behind the camera here, I have like a cabinet under the TV, which is essentially the cellar, the first cellar, and the second cellar is like boxes next to my damn bed. But like it's just a whole bunch of stuff in there that I probably had it 4 years. A lot of stuff like I don't know what to do. I unrealistically thought I'd get through it. So every winter you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get through the cellar this winter. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then obviously the first COVID winter was not friendly towards that, because I guess you could put a bottle stopper in it, but I don't know. It might not be the same. I don't know if I want it 2 nights in a row. You still got to drink 375 of a whatever 10+% thing. It's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. And yeah, you need you need friends. Like that's what the big bottles are there for, to share.
That's it.
And like if you don't have anyone to share it with, it's a lot of beer, man.
It's a lot. Yeah, I was just really trying to avoid just any sort of wastage of some stuff that you've spent all this time. Like when I say you, all of us, people who are purchasing it, you put it in your cellar. You don't want to just drain it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I love it. Oh, okay. Beer and was just saying we did. He said Chris from Third Moon never had a reason to open his bottles. Yeah, he had a bunch. It was I don't know if you heard Third Moon in a new brewery in Milton, Ontario, just outside of Toronto. They did a pod with them. It ended up being like 5 hours, which was ridiculous. But Chris, one of the owners, had this like it should be like a basement that should be a place where you would charge admission to. Like I've never seen anything like it. Where like every single part of the wall was just covered in bottles and cans of just stuff that he'd had, and then behind the bottles were boxes, and that's where he kept his cellar stuff. Even chicken wire in the roof, in the ceiling of the basement, all the way across. It was the most ridiculous. It was like an hour and a half of him giving us a tour. That's why it was 5 hours. We were just like losing our shit because he just was going through the whole thing, taking his phone around and just and filming it all. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
That's cool.
Made all of if you think you got a good cellar, like no, you see this bloke and he's got a spreadsheet and everything where it's all listed.
Oh, a spreadsheet. Oh, that's serious.
Spreadsheet.
That's serious.
Yeah, it was intense to keeping track of it all. I can imagine if you have that much, it's like that what it is. He's just saying it was like the basement from Jeepers Creepers. I don't know what that. I guess the movie. I don't think I've seen that. I imagine it's probably less creepy, probably more beery.
Yeah. I'd love to have like a good bar in my basement, but it's a photo studio, so that's why it looks so good.
Oh, it looks so nice. Maybe you can have a bar like on the other side of the camera.
Oh, yeah, I wish I could, but
no.
Yeah, we'll have to discuss that.
You can discuss it. I feel like you're the perfect person for it. To have the whole setup, have a bunch of taps going on, have a keg fridge.
Oh, exactly. I know. It seems weird that I don't.
I know. I was gonna say it's not like it's gonna cost you anything for the beer. You just bring a few kegs back. Jeez.
Yep. Exactly.
No, I love it, man. So okay, so these ones are going good. So are these like smaller batch? I imagine these are smaller batch than your other stuff, or do you still do the same size?
Yeah. Well, no. I guess to say in smaller batches. Yeah, we do like limited. Like I'm not producing it all the time, but. I think this hazy beer that we had last summer is going to be more so of a steady, regular beer and keep it going. The next one, the peach Kettle sour, it's for the summer, but it's kind of small batch too, as well. So we'll have that just like limited for the summertime. Yeah.
Okay, have you been doing other? Because I love the idea. Peach is one of my favorite fruits in kettle sours. It's so soft and subtle. So I was super stoked that that's what this was. Have you done? Is this like a series of stuff that you've done variants of with different?
No, this is the first kettles. Well, this is the first sour that Canvas has done. The idea is to I did some other like pilot like sours and some small stuff like that. But this is like the full first, like, lacto fermentation in the kettle, for whatever that was, a 24-hour period.
Nice.
Or a little over that. So I got all the sourness there. Like I did the whole like large production, I would say, for a sour. And but yeah, like it probably will lead as a good base into other into a series of different fruited sours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
perfect for summer, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And well, I mean, yeah, we don't know what's gonna like. We're probably gonna stick with just this one for the summer, and then kind of evolve it as like everything opens up, and we can just kind of like turn things over a little quicker.
Right.
But yeah, just make it simple for us.
Yeah,
It's not a sour. I'll just do this again.
probably easier. Are you using the like aseptic fruit purees and stuff?
Yeah, so I got a aseptic fruit puree from Trainers in Ontario here. They get it sourced from some grower out of Colombia, he was saying. So it's like Colombian grown fruit that they're getting all the purees from. Honestly, I've been like I didn't think that the impact of the fruit would be as, because usually you find it's like the skin of the fruit, because that's usually what people smell, and like that's the perception in your olfactory system, that you're like, you smell that and you're like, oh, peaches.
Yeah.
Like this is just like the meat of the fruit, and it well, I'm building up pretty good, but like it's like when you bite into a peach, and it just stays there, and you're just chewing on the peach, and like it's amazing how much it's like lingered in there. Like it's still in there, it hasn't dissipated, and like it's still fresh. Like it's like I did that last week, packaged it, so it's like a week old.
Both of these are super fresh. This was 29th of April. It's only like the 7th of May. So this is like a week old too.
It's a week old. Yeah, yeah. Did all these beers special for you guys. So yeah.
You took care of us, bro. I appreciate that.
No problem. And yeah, no, I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with that. Just the impact and the aromatic impact as well. Like it smells the same way that I cut it out of the bag.
Oof. You're like, talking about it. Oh. You're talking about it, Jeff, and I want to put it in my face now. I'm thinking. I mean, obviously, I got these beers to finish after, but look at this, Tiffany bringing it over. I do need to use the bathroom though, so what I might get you to do when you pour it, you want to pour it and just start to talk a little bit more about the beer. Sure. Back in 30 seconds. I can still hear you because it's on loud. Yep. If you need anything, I'll yell out. I'll be 2 seconds. Thank you.
All right, so we've got our peach kettle sour, 4.4%, 0 IBUs. So I didn't put any bitterness hops in there. I used sour pitch from Lullemans to do the lacto fermentation. And then USO5 yeast to do the alcoholic fermentation the day later. Then fermented that out. Basically, that was about 7 days, and then went into adding the peach in there. I did it at the end of the fermentation so that the yeast was still in suspension and active, just so that it would ferment any like simple sugars out of the peach puree. I didn't really want to add too much sugar in, and as you can it, you kind of get the idea that you might cause re-fermentation and then explosion. But yeah, like
I love it. I'm ready for it.
It's honestly like,
woo.
Once you get your nose into it,
oh,
I'll let him experience this much.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm ready. Do you want to take the photo pour, or do you want to do the final shot? We do the photos as we go.
Yeah.
It makes for a nicer experience. Ooh, it looks like peach juice. I was gonna ask, why did you choose peach for your first kettle sour? Oh, you get that. Look at that head. Look at that head. Oh yeah. Just gonna make sure she gets a photo with that. Beautiful. Look at this. Ooh, that is sexy. Yeah. Why did you choose peach, man?
So peach wasn't my first choice. I was going to go with oh shoot, what was it? What was the fruit called again?
Ooh. Let me guess. Can I guess? Can I guess? Was it guava?
No.
Was it tangerine?
No, it's pretty obscure too.
Okay.
Golden berry.
Golden berry? I would never have got that, Jeff. I would never have got it.
I'm trying to get something new into the market here.
Hey, man, I respect it. What on earth is a golden berry?
What? Pardon?
What on earth is a golden berry?
You know those fruits with the big flowers that are dried, and they're usually like a display fruit. They're a tropical fruit.
Yeah.
You might need to look it up, but it's the interesting thing is that it's part of like the tomato family. And
nice.
Without the skin, it tastes like a tropical fruit.
Oh, those things.
You know what it is. You see it all the time.
It's like a cherry tomato.
Cherry tomato, yeah.
It's like a cherry tomato with like the little thing on the outside. You see them at the supermarket all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, these things are wicked. Golden berries. Oh, no shit. All right.
Yeah. I was looking at that, and then supply issues, timing, ideas.
That's a good idea, man.
And it's like my second thought was to do peach.
Okay.
But not to like, a lot of people go like, well, a lot of people, but you can go really sour, really tart with it, and get like overly like too much like sour peach candy kind of notes to it. And I didn't want to go that far with the sourness. Like it's still very tart. Like you still get like a lot of good sour.
Yeah.
Even on the pH scale, if you're going to measure that side, like we're down to like I think we're at 3.5 pH.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're about there. And it's with all like I just I think one thing I found surprising with what I was going to use there is the impact that how much it sweetened it up, the beer in the fermenter, and then how much aromatic impact it had, and how much it's staying.
Yeah.
How much the flavor is kind of still in there. Like it's I should go get a sales job for this company. It's just a good product. So.
Oh, dude, this is exceptional. I see exactly what you mean. Even Beer and the Buzz is glad you went with peach. So am I. I love peach beers, man. It's like, so the nose is like you were saying, when you crack it and you pour it, you can smell the peach in the room. When I'm like, my nose is right up in it, it's the peach is like heavy. I don't know if I'm getting like the peach skin, but it smells juicy as hell. And it's got so much flavor. Like you said, it's only 4.4%. So much flavor in this thing. Super. Let me take another sip. Like it's light and refreshing, but there's like just the right amount of flavor to keep you coming back. It's not like over the top. I can picture like by a lake, pool, ocean, drinking this like all day without like burning your teeth off with too much sour vibes or too much sugar.
Yeah.
It's like you could drink it's like carbonated, slightly watered down peach juice. As in, it's not, because if you add too much, it'd be too sugary. And you haven't like you said, you haven't gone balls to the wall with the tartness or the tanginess, which can happen and can work. But I can see the purpose of this beer, which is a different thing altogether. This is great. Yeah. This is really good.
Yeah, yeah, and like I guess it comes down into would you have a second pint?
Yes.
And like the tricky thing I think with some sours is like, can you like would your body want to have a second pint? Mm-hmm. It's like some sours like it's like one drink and you're satisfied, and it's a great experience. But like I'd like to have people have a few pints, enjoy themselves if they really like it, and continue on.
Yeah,
but not drive away.
Never. Get an Uber. If there's not Uber in Huntsville, get a taxi or a friend or something, whatever you got up.
Yeah, we don't have Uber, so taxi.
Taxi works. Whatever happens. Mark is saying evening all. What's up, Mark? Thanks for coming through, bro. Dude, no, this is great. Like, I can see that this to me, I'm not a day drinker. I really don't like day drinking. I'm like a vampire. I'm like a super night owl. I don't like getting up early. I'm a stay up late type of thing. But I can imagine if I was going to drink during the day, this is a type of thing that sort of like, it's light enough. It's not you're never going to really get trashed off it. You can continue to drink it, like you were saying. You can have multiple pints. I imagine like I don't know. Typically, I wouldn't drink the same beer back to back just because of the nature of craft beer. You always want to try something different. But I could imagine getting like a 4-pack of these or a 6-pack of these and sitting around, chilling around some water. I feel like this feels like a water type of beverage where it's like you get that little. Sometimes you just want a little bit of sweetness, Like you don't always want like a bitter, crispy boy type of thing. You want this little, little bit of extra. But if it's like sticky sweetness, you start getting full and like. Because of the carbs that come with the sugar, it kind of fills you up a bit. But this is like you've hit like a really nice balance that I don't think I've seen a lot, man. This is really genuinely great. This is dope. You got to do a series. It's gonna happen.
I think I think it's gonna happen. But I was gonna say as well. You're talking about hop and bitterness and all that. You weren't here, but I didn't put any hops or any bitterness.
Okay.
So like there's no element of that within here. So it's just the malt base there, which is like wheat, spelt, barley, then a kettle soured it, alcoholic fermentation, peach puree, and like that's it.
Nice and easy.
Yeah.
No, man, it's so beautifully simple. This is fantastic. This is like, it's better than it deserves to be for a 4.4%, which is, it's just so much flavor in it. Like, whenever I get, and you know what, to be honest, you achieve that with all of the beers tonight. I feel like the Kölsch, like 4.5, so much flavor that like, sometimes when you start getting below 5%, it is, I imagine it's quite a task for a brewer to be able to maintain a reasonable level of, a flavor profile, because you are working so much less malt to be able to keep that ABV. Everything has been full. The Kölsch was fantastic. The pale ale was super juicy, but had a super interesting body that still packed a shit ton of flavor. The IPA was, the Hazy IPA was 6%, so that's a different beast altogether. That was killer, but this is like, I'm very impressed, bro, across the board. This is like my first, time trying any of your stuff, to be honest, and extremely impressed. Like this is some cool stuff, and it's in a completely different like realm, I guess, because you've been able to really work with flavor to appease the local audience that might not be super into crazy stuff, but like you're hitting like the craft beer nerds and dudes like myself and a lot of people watching or listening would be in that vibe that like, it's not easy to do that. It's a type of thing where like, I could go there and like, I got my craft beer noob friends. I could be like, nah, come to Canvas, man, because you're going to get some great Kölsch and a great bunch of stuff that you're not scared of. But I can be completely satiated drinking all of this crazy stuff that you're doing, and I think that's like the perfect balance for a brewery to have. So, well done, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. No, yeah, that's No, it's great to be able to, not appease everybody, but like to offer great styles great styles, well done for everybody, so that like you yourself, you can come in and, like you said, like you can bring your non-craft beer friends, or your craft new to craft beer friends, and then still get your like whatever West Coast IPA or hazy or sour or something, and they can enjoy like a good beer. And that's kind of like the encompassing experience we want on the beer side of what we want to bring to, to everyone.
Yeah, man, it's the money zone. You've done really well with that. Beer and a Buzz has a good question for you, actually. Any collabs on the horizon? I feel like that would be an interesting thing for you guys. Have you done any collabs before? And
Yes, yeah, we did. I've done one at the brewery, and then one prior to when we were still building, with a good friend of mine at Forefathers Brewing Company.
yeah,
And then when we brought him in, like the last time we did that, we at his place, but then we did ours here, and we brought in Frenchie's crepes as well. It's a little food truck, and we actually we made a Canadian breakfast ale.
nice.
So what? So kind of like a fun thing. We're like, oh, like let's just throw whatever we can, make it as sweet as we possibly can. So Frenchie's brought their crepes in. We got donuts. We've got maple syrup from from Cambridge area, like a local sugar bush there, and just like made it like really really sweet. Lots of like wheat, lots of oats, like just a big huge body to it, and it kind of came across as like a maple and lactose, most important. Yeah, and basically made it like a nice like maple glazed donut kind of flavor to it. Like it was really really unique, really sweet. Not overly sweet too. Like it wasn't like cloyingly sweet where you can only have like, you get some barrel aged beers that are just like like, oh, I can only have like an ounce, and this is great.
And I'm like, I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm surprised that people buy 12 packs and 2 4s of that beer. They're like, hey, you need to make this again. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But people have a tolerance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so in the future though, yeah, I'd love to. I was trying to organize stuff with. I've done with one with Flying Monkeys when we were down. That was before we were open to Fly Monkeys. I was trying to organize something with Sawdust City.
Nice.
Try to get like there's something around like all the Muskoka breweries too, like with like Muskoka Brewery, obviously Sawdust City, Like a Bays. Get something of all of us together that we were talking about. Yeah, yeah, definitely a lot of nothing planned. It's kind of hard to plan at this point, but
Yeah.
lots in the future.
I love it. No, that makes a lot of sense, particularly local collabs as well, which probably the easiest because you could probably safely still do it in person, I guess, if you have all the protocols in place and stuff, and and it just fosters that local, particularly coming into the summer when people are going, like coming up to the area. I imagine that's still going to happen, with regardless of kind of what happens. People are going to shooting back up there to holiday or whatever, and they're going to be looking for places, even if fingers crossed they can drink there, you're able to open up, but worst case you can't, having some sort of collabs that you're able to go pick up at each brewery or something where you're working together. If they go to Gravenhurst and they go to Sawdust and see Sam and them, and they're like, oh, Canvas, what's that? Oh, they're around the corner in Huntsville. I'm like, oh, sick, let me go check them out while I'm in town. And it just encourages and fosters that kind of craft beer community, which is, I guess, the whole point of collabs.
It is, and it's always giving some your own customers something new. Like it's definitely the most fun part about being in a brewery in the brewing industry, because ideas can come from anywhere, and usually they're pretty fun. Like where the ideas come from for beers, and it's nice to like be with a bunch of other brewers from other breweries, and you just sit there as like friends and just drink beers, come up with a crazy idea, and it's like, okay, let's see if it works. Experiment and have some fun. Like drink some beers and hang out. And I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's just let's relax. It's beer. Let's have some fun.
It's not that serious.
It's not too serious. It can be serious enough.
It can be. I love it, bro. No, this is awesome, man. On that note, I mean, we're coming up on. I don't want to keep you too long. I'm super conscious of this. Was there anything else you want to touch on, or how do you feel? Do you feel like we got most of the stuff in here?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're doing pretty good, and I'm good for a little longer. If you
Oh, you are? Oh, man, I'm chilling. I'm good.
Yeah,
good. I just want to make sure I don't mind keeping you up. I kind of feel bad. I was thinking, oh man, like the damn, the Brewers hours. So as long as we're good. I'm genuinely loving this. So I think this is definitely something I think is gonna get some attention over the summer. It's just like the perfect. People always talk about like the cottage beer, right? Like this is like the perfect cottage beer. That's just it's hitting that right sort of money zone. Like I mean, obviously everything else does as well, but there's something about this one that I'm loving the most as far as the profile, like whatever, like you're exactly right with the way you were describing the peaches. They're just like, oh, it's just so gorgeous. It's just like I don't think I've had a Kettle sour that's this restrained. Is probably the word I'm looking for. In a good way. I mean, I'm down for the enamel removing, tear your face like sours too, but
you might as well drink some vinegar.
You might as well.
No, like what I find what I find with sours like how should I say this? So in a way to kind of think about it, you think about like drinkability, and like there's like components, and I always kind of joke about this, and I don't say it. Obviously, I'm going to say it pretty loudly here, but like it's funny what people find, and this is like what the big brewers have all kind of discussed in terms of drinkability or sessionability, like is their term, and they're just like, okay, what would make somebody drink a 6-pack of your beer? Okay, what prevents people from drinking a 6-pack of beer? Like usually first it's like hops, like bitterness and things like that. Like like you do limit yourself out there. Like it's like yeast character. Like sometimes the spicy character from some yeast are like pretty hard on you, and then like there's there's malt character too, and you can be too sweet, too caramelly, things like that. So like where like you kind of drive everything down to like the basics, where it's like very subtle on all of those or negative on them, you can create very sessionable beers. And it's like looking at that perspective of like large scale breweries, and like that's been their driving force, and that's why we see light lagers, and where it's gone to, where it's basically just like water. You're like, okay, well, so people don't like any of those things.
Right.
They just want alcohol and they want carbonated water is basically what they want. You're like, okay, so like how do you build like subtle flavors and move up into that side? And you can see where like the craft beer side has gone from like like, oh, hops are good, bitterness is good, yeast flavor is good, like all, and these styles are all good, and you can be very nice and drinkable, and just like I just found that as a very interesting concept to where the brewery, like if you're talking about prohibition, that from prohibition, like the downscaling of like small craft breweries, microbreweries, regional breweries to like the big conglomerates, and that's been their driving force to make as many sales as they can. Like that's been their target audience to make a most mass appeal beer.
Yeah.
And you're like, like there's something to learn from it, but like to take that and to employ flavor at good levels to exceeding levels to everyone's taste. It's kind of, I think it's something I kind of was looking at, and like it's kind of I don't know, it's definitely something to consider and to add into what your you know for recipes, trying to like move things forward that way.
Hmm. No, I like it. I mean, I guess you got to be forward thinking as well, and try and look at what other people, what the folks are really going to be wanting moving forward, as well. Because
Yeah,
I guess it's sort of like because you're sort of hitting two sides of it because your distribution market and then your home market. So it's
yeah,
like, do you create the beers? Like you have to create just enough. Well, not do you, but you have to do both. You got to create the beers for the people who are who are there, who are your bread and butter, who are like coming in, like you were saying, buying the cases and the 12 packs or whatever. And then now, because you're in the LCBO, so yeah, I mean you've got the pale ale now, which is going to really, at the end of the day, that's like the brand ambassador for the rest of the beers. It's kind of like
definitely.
even though you've got flagships in the brewery, like the public facing flagship to the outside of the region is going to be this the pale ale. So they're going to try that, and then the idea is that they're going to want to try the rest from the brewery, whether they order online or they're in the area, they come by and they pick some stuff up. So it's sort of like an interesting thing where you've got to like look at what you're going to create and for whom. You
Yes.
to try and like I feel like the way that you go, because it's such an interesting thing for breweries, because and particularly being where you are, because say if you're in like a mecca, like a city or whatever, you're probably going to, if you're in the city or something like like the hipster areas or whatever, you're probably really only going to need to create the trendy
Yeah.
stuff. Excuse me, the,
Yeah.
the other stuff isn't really going to move the needle for you.
No.
You're in a place where it's necessary to have that sort of original color wheel, from the
Yes.
blonde to the amber and going darker, um, whilst also trying to satiate both yourself as a creative individual, as an artist on a canvas. You're going to need um, to be able, like you were saying earlier, like it's interesting for you to not, you don't want to make the same beer over and over because that shit is boring, man. Like at least you've got these
Yeah.
cool like these cool canvases once again that you can just sort of like slap a little label on and they all look cool, and you can
Yeah.
just do something and test them out, and then if it kills it enough, you could upgrade it to a permanent thing that has
Yes.
like a the proper label or a tall can or whatever it might be. Um,
Yep.
yeah, it's such an interesting thing for you, but that's cool because you now have the other opportunities for the stores, so you can go in multiple directions here with all different stuff, and whether it's from your own doors or whether you make it to sell there, and hey, I got this amazing peach kettle sour that's super crushable, and you can make some noise in another market within the province, whether it's out in Ottawa, Toronto, Kingston, London,
Yep.
Barrie, whatever, and push that out there. It's a cool kind of place to be in,
It is.
to be
It
able to do
is.
that.
And it kind of forces you to um, in terms of creative, like you know, you have to be creative enough to um, and be adaptable enough to what the local market needs and to what the greater market needs,
Mm.
and like to really survive and thrive in where we are, which is part of the business plan was to make a distribution company, like a brewery as well. And like we, because the seasonality, as I described before, like we're set up to um, maximize what we can, people in the doors
Sure that.
as we can, as well as
Mm.
like like I got a we have a 20-barrel brew house, and we just uh, we just put in our first like 60-barrel fermenter too,
Nice.
and I got a three 40 barrels we initially started with, and a 20-barrel fermenter, and like our Kölsch actually, because of our numbers over last summer, we were running out of beer in the big in the summertime, and I needed to produce about 60 barrels or 7,000 liters worth of that specific beer through the summer to even like manage that, and that's COVID too. That's not like
not
our
regular.
bar restaurants like that we had before, because like all their sales were like everyone was in the shitter, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And like our keg sales weren't as much as what we were anticipating going into it. So it was encouraging, like certainly encouraging for like the sales, and it was a big bullet to bite to purchase, install, get in place for this summer. And you know like we're ready for this, like
The
that
busy
sort of
season.
sales flux, the busy season. But it's like, it was a pretty big nail biter to make sure like we had to expand that way, especially over these tight the tight months of COVID, right?
Yeah, man, I can only imagine like those purchasing decisions are going to be, they're going to weigh on you like 10x what they normally would.
Yeah,
to make that.
Yeah, 10x and like minimal cash flow. It's been it's been what it was.
Yeah, and look,
of course.
It's trash and it sucks. It really, really does. The one thing that kind of gives me hope, because when this all started, I guess as all of us, I was like, oh man, like breweries are fucked. Like, what's gonna happen? But people were bored shitless to begin with, and they were drinking more than normal. So,
yep.
And I think that leveled out eventually. But I don't think it's gone down, because I feel like the money that people, because I was like, oh, there's going to be so many people who are screwed and they're not going to have that disposable income. But I can imagine that the CERB thing, helped a lot of people out.
Yep.
Or those that were fortunate enough to keep their situations didn't have other things to spend it on. They weren't going to restaurant. Maybe we're all going to Uber. We try and go to Uber Eats once or twice a week to support local restaurants and stuff, or go directly if they have an option, just to keep that going and stuff. But beer isn't something that seemed to have suffered. And from what I understand from other brewery owner friends, have said that their sales are the same as the year, but say 2019. But the margins, as you were mentioning, everyone should be pretty aware that, obviously if there's no packaging in the middle, you don't have to pay for aluminium and the canning machine, and you're selling that at wholesale to the LCBO, blah, 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 or wherever you're selling it to. Like, all of those eat up costs, eat up some of your profit there. So obviously you might be selling the same volume, but your margin's not the same. Maybe, to be fair, you don't have the same volume of staff because you don't have to take care of as many people, but at the same, I guess all of that to say the breweries are alive, and I haven't really no wood to touch here, but I haven't seen anyone go under yet, and I feel like everyone is maintaining at the very least. Like, is it optimal? Of course not. Like, is everyone thriving? Most aren't thriving, but it's getting by. Given it's a pandemic and people are literally dying, I guess it's the best we could ask for.
Yeah. Oh no. We got to do what we got to do, and hopefully more of these vaccines roll out, and everyone's we get healthy, and we keep, like, especially in Ontario here, we're locked down until May, I think 20th.
Okay.
And hopefully we're open for outdoor dining, minimal this summer, and we can move on from here.
That's it, bro.
We're all going to do our part, and this is our part, and it's a sacrifice, and it's tough, but we're like I've talked about a lot of, like, you get the 60 barrel fermenter in, then I get you talk about the LCBO, and we're in beer stores, the beer store in Ontario, and then we're also in grocery stores as well. Cool. So like we've been forced to expand ourselves into these lower margin, but like you need that, like it was an inevitability, which we were built to do that. We were just forced to pivot faster and harder, and we weren't able to capitalize so quickly. Like if we were already in like LCBOs, beer stores, like all that kind of stuff when this happened, it wouldn't have been such a hard turn. But it was not. Like we're still, like, we're just in year 2 So
That's
like,
a lot.
like that's where the pivot was like really struggling hard, and we just finished construction in March of last year.
Ooh, so literally when it all happened.
Literally when it happened, that the end of the month
Uh,
was when everything transferred over from the general contractor to us.
Gee, and then that was when lockdown went down.
And we were full lockdown, well, 2 weeks
Oh,
prior to that. So,
wow.
it was pretty tight.
Very tight. Like, couldn't be tighter. Gee.
Yeah, it was very stressful, and we went from our 40 accounts and our retail store and our bar to zero revenue streams, and or I guess to one, to our retail store,
I mean, yeah.
and that was not a great first couple of months.
Can imagine. Jeez, man.
Yeah. So it was a hard pivot, hard like struggle, and uh, yeah, we made it happen. We're still here, so
That's all
which
that
is
matters,
good.
you know.
Yeah.
And the idea is, like you said, hopefully this summer we go back to the patio and that type of stuff. Like I said, out here we haven't had that either, so hopefully they'll determine that those areas are kind of safe. I don't think they've got data to say that it's spreading on open patios at a distance and in open air.
No, yeah. I don't think so. Like, I mean, from what I understand, like we should at least have that now,
Of
and then it'll at least be like weather dependent. Like if
course.
whatever, like it's snowy or cool or whatever. If we don't get like last summer was pretty awesome. Like we had on. I don't know about you guys in Montreal, but
I think it was good.
like it was we were hot and dry, and it was like it was an awesome summer weather wise. So like it was very beneficial for us, and because you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes we're like it might be a little cool, wet, or at least like cool, wet in the evenings, and get hot days. So um, yeah, it was a really good summer weather wise last year, which benefited us for outside dining or everybody really, and hopefully we get something similar to that. But I don't
Hoping.
know.
I feel like it's interesting. I've been in Canada like pushing 11 years. So from what I've seen, this last like 12 months has been the most accurate turning of the seasons that I've personally ever seen. Obviously, I'm not the same as anyone who's been here 30, 40 years to understand it, but um,
Yeah.
seeing that like on the money, like winter start, like it didn't snow in October like it normally could. Like we got a fall all the way, and we got that. And my guess of what I've read and heard, the lack of planes in the sky, the lack of cars on the road, maybe have contributed to not that less pollution, which has let the Earth move. I don't know, I'm probably bullshitting, but to move the season through. So the idea I'm hoping is
Yeah.
that all the rain will be ended by the end of by when spring is typically over, and then we get like a real solid dry, not humid because I hate this humidity. We don't have that in Australia really, so I'm not used to the humidity. It kills me, whacks me out, man. Can't breathe. I
Is
can't
that
do it.
that? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that means you're from South Australia.
Correct. I'm from the southern part of Australia. I'm from Melbourne. Yeah, good
Yeah.
guess. Good one.
I was like, well, I studied a little bit because I was like, I'd like to my travels. I was like, oh, I'd like to go to Australia. You meet a lot of Australians traveling.
Of course, we're everywhere. We're a
Like just
plague.
like Canadians, you
Yeah,
seem
you
to be
guys.
everywhere.
Yep, everywhere.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this seems like a cool place to go. So I looked at it like Darwin,
So
up
that's
on the north coast.
that's like
That's
crazy
very,
humid and tropical cyclones,
yeah,
crazy
very
shit.
tropical, humid. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like kind of similar to what we are in the summer times. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So
Not tropical.
down. Well, yeah. To me, it kind of basically think of Australia as America flipped. So like
Mhm.
Queensland, which is
Yeah.
like there's Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria. Like Queensland is like Florida, hot all year
Yeah.
round. Some crazy people. But like if you go to the southern part of Queensland, which is like towards New South Wales border, Gold Coast and Brisbane, like the capital and stuff, like that's pretty dope there. The weather's great. It's kind of 20, 25 degrees year round, chilling, awesome. And then as you go further down, Melbourne is like the southernmost city on the continent, on the actual continent. And it's Tasmania, which is like an island, which gets a little colder because it's like that's the only thing stopping between Melbourne and Antarctica, for fuck's sake. Like, it's kind of crazy when you really think about it. So our winters are like English winters. When you were in Scotland and stuff like that, miserable, raining, dark. It's gross.
Right.
But it's like 5 degrees. Maybe overnight it gets 0, 5, 10 degrees. And people, I've been here for like all this time, so I know what -40 is here in Montreal. So I'm like, to me, Melbourne winters are soft, but it's still miserable. Like, you can't deny the miserability of it. But the summers are beautiful, and they were always like 45 degrees and like dry heat, like just desert dry, like it just hit you. So those days were sick, but they usually would have like a cool change. It'd be like 45 degrees, and all of a sudden a thunderstorm would be down to like 25 type of thing.
Yeah.
So I was used to that, and then coming here, and I wasn't used to that water in the air and not being able to breathe. I'm just sitting here in the crib, just sweating and dying. Like, what is happening? So I'm hoping that it'll balance out a little bit, and like that extreme was maybe the earth correcting from the pollution. So I don't know. Either way, the season seemed good. Hopefully that means we're going to get some something a little more normal this year, because so far it's been pretty dope. On a slightly separate subject, Beer and a Bose is asking a really good question, which is something that's come up a lot recently. I love this. Any interest in the zero alcohol segment? There's some great stuff being done, which is true. I feel like it's one of the most and I never thought this. I thought it was all bullshit. I hated that low alcohol beer, like low, 2% and under beer here is always popping here. People love it, and I thought it was like, what's the point? But I've started to really embrace it. I love non-alcoholic beers. I've balanced my out because of the pandemic. I've really got strict drinking nights, and I balance my drinking really well. And one thing that ever hits the spot if you have a craving is a non-alcoholic beer. So I always make sure I keep them around. My girlfriend too. Whenever we're like, I want to drink tonight, I'm like, let's hit that non-alcoholic beer, and you have that, and it's the experience of cracking the can and pouring it into a beer. We make sure we use a beer glass, and it looks like beer, tastes kind of like beer, like it's fizzy beer water, but it hits on the spot. So I feel like it's one of the biggest growing markets. Have you looked into that at all?
We definitely have. Sort of like a extension of like the British beers and the lower alcohol beers. Like we wanted to, like we're conscious of like the drinking and driving laws. Like they've gotten pretty strict here in Ontario,
right?
And like we're definitely a driving town destination, and and as well as, like most craft beer like are pretty high alcohol, and like they're really rich in flavor. They're really good. So like you want to have your, hazy IPA that's 6%. But you got to drive or do something else like that. Like we want to get into like like a 2% beer or something like that. Like, but like really hits the spot. Like really, it doesn't seem like it's that low alcohol.
Yeah.
And then go from there. To get down to like even like non-alcoholic, that's something that I'd like to get ourselves into that market as well. And like outside of pasteurization, I'm looking at like preservatives. I know it's a bad word in most people's spheres, but like to get like the a stable product that you can have out there and not do the pasteurization. For us to do that in house, it's pretty, like you can't do it without like outsourcing it.
Right.
So to try to keep it in house, like we'd have to look at those kind of options, but definitely the low alcohol, like from like 1 to 3%. Like I'd like to get ourselves into those ranges, and then even try to get ourselves into non-alcoholic.
I think it'd be a good look. I think you make a good point in that not only is Ontario, and you're right, it's super driving. Whenever we go to Toronto, because my girlfriend's from Toronto, I lived there first. My brother lives in Toronto. It was it was always a thing. I only moved here to keep me in the country. Went to French school. It was just easier. and then we just stayed.
Okay.
But every time we rent a car and we drive, because Toronto is pretty difficult to maneuver without a car, in my opinion. It's definitely easier, and obviously if you come up to where you guys are at, it's basically mandatory.
It's all driving.
It's all driving.
You got to drive everywhere, yeah.
Totally. So there's something to be said about that, and I feel like it's like I don't know if it's picked up in the same way in Ontario that I've seen here in Quebec, but I feel like it's like only just a little behind, if anything, as far as that sort of like demand for something like that. Where like obviously right now it's probably a little different. I think there's two different needs for it. There's the need that I mentioned before, which is like to hit the spot when you're trying not to drink. Some of the ones you can get are like there's one we can get now from I think it's from PEI. And it's 30 calories. It's ridiculous.
Right.
And it's tasty as hell. It's like a little pale ale. It's beautiful. And then
perfect.
You've got the opposite side, which is when you're out and about at the bars, and maybe you're the DD and you're cruising around, and maybe you can have one full strength beer or something like that, and then the rest of the night you can feel like you're part of the crew and not feel like you're sort of left out, but you're able to sip on a non-alcoholic beer that's tastes most of the way there.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot.
Yeah, you definitely. Exactly. Yeah. The thing I find, like, you just don't want to be that uncool guy drinking water.
Water in the bar, and you kind of feel like, you're sitting here like with
like
this.
A party's
like,
pumping. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm just drinking.
I'm having a great time. Yeah.
yeah.
At the very least, if you can
catch beer, it's like shut up.
Exactly.
Shut up, drunk friend.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this guy again. The very least, you kind of feel like a part of
it. Yeah, exactly.
You feel like a part of it. If you're drinking a non-alcoholic beer, and you got a beer glass, and the whole thing is like, and it mostly tastes like it. I used to not like it, but when you realize, if you think of it, you have to position it in your head like this beer flavored fizzy water. So it's Perrier, it kind of tastes like beer and looks like beer, as opposed to expecting it to taste like the Hazy Ipa. And I don't know, that's what got me over the edge. And I'm like, I really appreciate these things now. Because I can imagine it's pretty tough, because there's multiple, like you were saying, there's multiple ways. There's the de-alkalization way of doing it. There's like a special yeast. There's some other way that I forgot about. There's like a few different ways you can make them, and it's not easy to make them flavorful, appealing. And I feel like there's definitely a lot of good ones out there. So it sounds like it's definitely might be something that would make sense for you based on where you're at and who you'd be targeting and stuff. And I imagine once things free up, and even if people aren't able to come to bars yet, but they can go to someone's house, there's going to be a DD to go to someone's house still. So maybe they might need to have, bring a couple non-alcoholics with them as well, make them, for the same purpose.
If they like flavors and the components of beer, like they can still at least enjoy beer flavored beer.
Beer flavored beer. I mean, beer flavored fake beer. It's close enough.
It's close enough. Yeah. What kind of like blew my mind a little bit? Like I knew it was a big segment. I could see the numbers. I can see trends going towards like non-alcoholic. But we're at a local grocery store here in town at Independent Grocers, and there was like skids of non-alcoholic beer they're bringing in. One day I was delivering, and like we sell like quite a lot of beer there, like 20, 30 cases. We bring in a load sometimes, and like I saw like a skid of non-alcoholic beer, and I was like whoa, like oh yeah, like talking to the owners and the managers there, and like oh yeah, we just like if you guys make one, like they'll buy it, of course, and they're just like yeah, we'll just like we just can't keep it on the shelves.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, wow, that's, like more of that, like, like straight hit. You're just like, oh, wow. Like, like I knew this was real. I knew we want to get into this, like we got to get something going. Like it's definitely not going to happen this summer. Like we'll try to see over the winter and maybe organize for next summer or at some point next year. But, like, it's just like, oh, wow, there's like that purchasing of that much is pretty crazy.
it can work out pretty good. I was speaking to Matt at Rorschach in Toronto, and they have one called Free Spirit. He was telling me, he's like, the amount of effort, work, expenses into the ingredients, it's no different than a full strength beer. But you know, you sell it for around the same, but it's like you're using all that same energy to get the opposite of what you were trying to get out of a regular beer. And he said it's quite a lot, but there's like people who come in and exactly what you're talking about, because they just buy it by the case, buy a couple cases at once. Even if it's like a pale ale, like essentially the Hazy Ipa type of style, like you can make it in like a West Coast style. You can do that. You could do. I mean, I think it's harder to do like a blonde or lager, pilsner, Kölsch type of thing in that style. It's probably easy to do some sort of from ale, but people just stacking up, man. I think it's just sort of like it seems like it's the product that's keeping people sane through all of this, and also keeping them, like, you know, particularly because there's something to be said about the calorie level. I feel like there's some sort of requirement to put a nutritional label, so you do know, you get that lab result and you know what your calories are at and your sugars and carbs and all that. As opposed to a regular beer, you don't have to do that, and it's I don't know. It speaks to all of that. Like it's fascinating how much people love, and even us, we're not those people. Obviously, Tiff has a wine and spirits Instagram platform as well that goes hand in hand with this, and you know, literally, this is a big part of what we do is alcoholic beverages, and like I've been surprised at how much the non-alcoholic stuff has appealed to both of us, and satiating those needs to be able to give us that balance that we needed in our lives. To not have to drink every damn night, type of thing. It's you know, if the supermarket's saying that to you, bro, it's a done deal right there.
Yeah, I know, and just got to implement. got to do some pilot batches, and
it's gonna take some research. Definitely seems worth it. Before I forget, my camera's starting to die, so I want to get the screenshot for the thumbnail. You want to hold up some of the empty cans or something for the old photo here? Just make sure I get that. Yes, getting these. Yeah, these are super solid, man. That peach was out of control. Out of control.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. That's it was a fun new project.
I love it. Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
Oh wait,
cool.
did I do the face?
Do you want to do the face?
Yeah. All right, I need a should have got a ball cap, but it's okay.
It has to be backwards,
Backwards is key.
It's the uniform. Look what I've done to myself. I made myself have to do like this all the damn time. Here we go. Here, we'll put them here, right? Oh, you are a champion. You are a sport, Jeffrey. Look at that. Look at us. I'll send that. Put that on the Christmas card, mate. That is beautiful. No, that's awesome, dude.
I'll be expecting it in the mail.
You expect it. It's coming. Now, this is awesome, bro. I feel like we really got, we got into everything you guys are doing. I'm super impressed. I'm glad I got the story direct. I appreciate your time. The beers are genuinely fantastic. I'm really happy for you that you're in the LCBO and the beer store and everything. That's you're really moving forward with that. I think the small batch stuff is phenomenal. I would definitely want to see that continue coming. Please keep me in the loop, dude. Like I'm loving this. Want to see what you're doing up there. It's very cool. Ticking all the boxes for everybody. It's beautiful, man. I appreciate your time. This is great. I'm glad we're connected.
Yeah, no, same here. No, this has been great, and can't wait to do it again.
Oh man, not even a question. Let's check in later in the year, early next year, latest, and see what's going on. We'll keep in touch in the meantime. On that note, where can everybody find Canvas Brewing online, bro?
At canvasbrewing.com. Come check us out, and we got a virtual tour, like Google Street View. You can come right in and check our brewery as well, and it's gonna be great on Instagram and Facebook.
At Canvas Brewing?
On canvasbrewing.com, yeah.
Canvas Brewing as well. Well, it's at Instagram, at Canvas Brewing, I think, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. That is amazing. Stick around for a sec. I'm going to wrap this up, and then we'll finish up on the call. So, guys, everyone, thank you for watching and listening. Shouts to Beer and a Bozo. Great comments. That was really great. Mark, everyone was commenting. Appreciate y'all. Hey.
Oh,
Oh, you saying something? Oh, okay, reading out loud. I thought Tiff was trying to say something to me to make sure I covered something. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up. Hit subscribe below. Hit the notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us on social media at BAOS Podcast. And check out the long-form audio so you can hear attractive gentlemen like Uncle Jeffrey talk about craft beer every week. We are back next Thursday. We've got a Thursday and Friday double banger episode again. Mate, we are delivering right now. That is it. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you next week, guys. Have a great weekend. Peace.